Good afternoon and welcome to today's hybrid New York City Council hearing for the Committees on Public Housing, jointly with Oversight and Investigation. To minimize disruptions, we need everyone to please silence their electronic devices. If you'd like to submit testimony, please send via email to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
So, good morning, good afternoon now. I'm Gail Brewer. I'm chair of the Oversight and Investigations. This evening is going to begin. I'm going to turn it over to an amazing council member, Councilmember Aviles, who's head of public housing.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our sincerest apologies to the residents who again had to experience a disruption this morning. I respect and value your time and appreciate you bearing with us. Welcome to this joint hearing of the Committee on Public Housing and the Committee on Oversight and Investigations. I am Councilmember Alexa Aviles, and I chair the Committee on Public Housing. I would like to thank my colleague, Councilmember Brewer, chair of the Oversight and Investigations Committee, for holding this important hearing with me today. I'd also like to acknowledge my City Council colleagues who have joined today. Councilmember Rivera, Councilmember Barron, Councilmember Osei, Councilmember Marte, Councilmember Velasquez, Councilmember Ayala, and Councilmember Joseph. These committees have called forth the administration today because we expect a full and honest accounting of the arsenic debacle at Reese Houses. The residents at Reese have been living in fear and frustration, and for a large part of this entire ordeal, they were kept in the dark. They deserve the truth. They deserve answers. It started with complaints about cloudy water all the way back to August 3rd, and some say earlier. NYCHA didn't order testing until over a week later on August 12th. On August 16th, NYCHA declared the water safe to drink. On Monday, August 29th, the first results of arsenic were reported to NYCHA. Around 10 p.m. on Friday, September 2nd, the mayor abruptly began distributing water at Reese, and a little after 11 p.m. publicly revealed that residents shouldn't use the tap water to drink or cook because it had come up positive for unsafe levels of arsenic. There are reports that the administration knew about the arsenic 2 weeks before finally making this announcement. 2 weeks. Why was NYCHA sitting on this information? Why weren't residents warned as soon as NYCHA knew? A few days later, after more testing showed that there were not unsafe levels of arsenic, but these tests were conducted on samples taken from different buildings at the Reese complex. Then on September 8th, in another absurd turn of events, the mayor announced that additional testing came up negative for arsenic, but did detect Legionella, the bacteria that causes Legionnaire's disease. The administration has been casting doubts on these results ever since. September 9th, the administration claimed that there had never been arsenic in the water, that the testing vendor had introduced the arsenic into the water samples. And the next day, Mayor Adams stated in a press release that the water was safe to drink and placed blame solely on the vendor. This timeline of events doesn't even begin to describe the fear and frustration the over 2,600 residents living in Reese have had to deal with. It is any wonder why they are mistrustful of NYCHA and the administration. In his press release, the mayor called the vendor's error unacceptable. And I say the administration's entire handling of this situation has been unacceptable. Today, the City Council expects clear answers, and we expect NYCHA to have the basic decency to stay put to hear out the residents who have come to speak about their experience. For the record, not having the former CEO, but still current chair of NYCHA, Mr. Greg Russ, testifying here today is a huge disservice, not only to the institution, but to the residents whom we all serve. Let us not be confused. Chair Russ's change in status is not accountability for this or any of the major challenges under his tenure. We are well aware that this change in position within NYCHA follows the recommendations of the monitor to separate the roles of CEO and chair, and it was very much in the making. Nevertheless, electing to not have him participate was a very poor decision and further validates residents' suspicion of the agency and this continued skirting of accountability. NYCHA indeed seems to be its own worst enemy. Before handing it over to Chair Brewer for her remarks, I would like to thank my staff, Christina Bottego, Edward Cerna, as well as the Public Housing Committee staff, Senior Counsel Audrey San, and Policy Analyst Jose Conde, Ricky Chaula, for all the work that they've put into this hearing. And now I will pass it to Chair Brewer.
Thank you very much, Chair Aviles, and I want to also thank Councilmember Rivera, whose district we are talking about. I am Gail Brewer, and I chair the City Council's Committee on Oversight and Investigations. And as you just heard, we are holding today's hearing to find out why there has been a month of chaos, fear, and confusion at Reese Houses. We know why the tenants are upset. We want to understand how in the world there was an apparent false positive test for arsenic in August. Delays, errors, miscommunication has left public housing residents at Reese, and I want to say elsewhere, because the residents everywhere are wondering about the water that they have in their buildings. And so they lack trust with NYCHA and our city, because our city is charged with maintaining homes at NYCHA and alerting them to potential health dangers in a timely fashion. NYCHA has had many challenges over the years. I think I know 40 years of them. Lead paint was one of them. And this affair, this arsenic situation, inspires little faith in the Housing Authority. Does it have its act together when it comes to environmental safety, which is perhaps most important, your health? I understand completely why the residents of Reese Houses are upset and outraged. They should be. They deserve a full accounting. They're also due for an opportunity to express their fears and anger they felt weeks when they worried that they might be poisoned by arsenic. It's the most frightening feeling. NYCHA, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and the Mayor's Office must explain why Reese residents only learned of the initial test showing arsenic in Reese Houses water 2 weeks after the city first learned of the results. That's perhaps the most important issue. We need to, why was the faulty test conducted in the first place? And why did weeks go by before residents finally got an accurate water quality test? And I have to say, as you heard earlier, residents still don't trust it. This episode raises questions about a number of city departments and functions, obviously NYCHA, DEP. Why is it so hard to accurately monitor environmental conditions and communicate with residents? Communication is really easy. The agencies need to explain why they hired this outside water testing vendor in the first place. Did they have any past that was challenging? And how is it that the city can ensure it only engages competent contractors, and making sure this contractor and this subcontractor are not part of the city's payroll in the future? Beyond this immediate incident, we need to know how residents of sometimes dilapidated NYCHA developments can be confident that the infrastructure they rely on for safe drinking water and other functions will not sicken them. I've been through Legionnaires in Harlem as borough president. I know what the challenges are. I hope agency representatives testified today can shed light on how this water testing crisis developed and making sure what are the steps that it never happens again. And I know that the witnesses speaking on behalf of Reese Houses can voice their concerns, and they need answers to their questions. Just like my colleague, I certainly want to thank the Oversight and Investigations Committee staff headed up by Aaron Mendelson, Senior Counsel C.J. Murray, who's right here, and Policy Analyst Alex Yablon for their hard work, and my staff in particular. And now I will turn it over to Councilmember Rivera, and then after that, Public Advocate Williams. Councilmember Rivera.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. I'm Councilmember Carlina Rivera. I have the honor of representing the residents of Jacob Riis houses in the New York City Council. I want to thank Chairs Alexa Aviles and Gail Brewer and our Speaker Adrienne Adams for calling this emergency hearing to investigate NYCHA's response to concerns over water safety in Jacob Riis houses and for giving me this opportunity to speak. NYCHA's history of managing the environment of its residents is tainted with delays, poor quality output, and in many cases, fraud, all of which have caused issues the City Council has confronted: lead in paint, mold on the ceilings, or asbestos in the walls. And today we discuss the latest management crisis, the basic necessity of safe drinking water. Unfortunately, this history predates many of us in this chambers and has been endemic in developments across the 5 boroughs. Too often, the burden of raising the alarm to fix a problem in NYCHA is carried by residents and community leaders. I want to especially thank them for tirelessly demanding more for their families, and I am proud to stand with you today. The experiences of our neighbors and the legacy described of a system whose challenges are rooted in racism and classism, we would hope would push you all, public servants, to understand the urgency that comes with rebuilding trust. What happened at Riis houses illustrates a lack of attention to detail and, quite frankly, mismanagement of the basic needs of residents, water quality being one of them. The confusion around this particular situation also underscores the inefficiency created by the siloing between agencies and is a failure of interagency coordination. Furthermore, with the entire city shocked when it was announced that Jacob Riis houses had elevated levels of arsenic in its water, we were all stunned by the subsequent retraction of the original test results and the worries this situation created. For residents of Riis, this crisis followed weeks of raising concerns over cloudy water at the development and being told repeatedly by NYCHA that the water was safe to drink. The week of confusion that followed asked a lot from these residents who had to balance their anxieties over their own health with the need to provide safe meals and potable water for their families. For those of us who were there at the one public meeting held by NYCHA on Avenue D at PS 34, outrage doesn't even begin to cover the warranted emotions by the residents. At this hearing, we will be asking for a full accounting from NYCHA. For almost a month at this point, we have deserved details and answers to all of our questions and full transparency from the agency and all agencies involved. We expect that today. Thank you.
Public Advocate?
Thank you so much. As was mentioned, my name is Jamani Williams, Public Advocate of the City of New York. I want to thank Chair Aviles and Chair Brewer, the members of both committees, for holding the hearing and allowing me to provide a statement. About 3 weeks ago, my office and I released a report called How the Other Half Lives in Public Housing, named after a book of Jacob Riis called How the Other Half Lives that was written over 100 years ago, which spotlights the inexcusable and dangerous conditions at NYCHA developments that we witnessed during our 5-borough tour earlier this year. We did it inside of Jacob Riis houses. Not even 12 hours later, we learned that NYCHA discovered arsenic in the tap water at Jacob Riis houses, even though they knew we were going to be there, and we were one of the folks that were never told of what was going on. According to the city article, the test results that show arsenic in the tap water was completely a week before any of the residents were notified. After being notified, many of the residents informed reporters that they do not drink from the tap water because it was either brown or smells. To this day, residents still complain about the water, and let it be known that many of these complaints were happening well before August. However, they have not been given a reasonable explanation as to why that is. This could be a result of aging pipes, and we all need to know what the state of NYCHA's pipe system is through the 5 boroughs. It is important to note that DEP conducted tests of its water to its delivery points at Jacob Riis, and it came back negative for any contaminants. This is clearly another example of how NYCHA continues to fail their residents by creating an unsafe environment. In our report, we highlight the years of water damage that has ruined many apartments and the constant heat and hot water outages during the winter months. New issues like the safety of the water supply keep cropping up while recurring issues remain unabated, and it appears that NYCHA is not doing much to resolve these problems. I don't know what is more disconcerting, that NYCHA CEO has recently stepped down during the midst of this turmoil, or that he is still serving in the capacity of chair, making a pretty good salary, and is not here. A chair who resides 5 states away with a distance of over 1,000 miles, I do think is disrespectful that he's not here, disrespectful to the council, disrespectful to all of NYCHA and Jacob Reeds in specific. And it's inexplicable that he's not here to answer questions. NYCHA has had 3 chairs during my tenure in office, spanning 12 years, which does not help to stabilize a mismanaged agency, greater in size than many cities. However, I feel strongly that NYCHA will not be able to rectify its management problems without boots on the ground. NYCHA's employees, including the chair, NYCHA's employees must be made up of more New York City and particularly NYCHA residents. With no clear direction of what NYCHA will do next, how will they ensure that this does not happen again? NYCHA's chronic mismanagement led to the appointment and oversight of a federal monitor. Our report was clear that more funding was actually needed for NYCHA, but we were also clear that the mismanagement was not necessarily attached to funding, and that mismanagement was solely in the auspices of NYCHA. The federal monitor was not notified by NYCHA management of the initial and arsenic test samples. NYCHA has to have a process in place to expeditiously notify residents, the mayor and the federal monitor and other electeds of emergency conditions irrespective of water tests that yield a positive or a false positive result. In closing, I'd like to know why a contractor who was not certified with the city to do this type of testing was hired to do the testing. That's what we have heard, and I think that's a question that needs to be answered. In addition to that, why did it take so long to complete the water testing? And why was the first test not rushed like the later ones? Why would you wait so long to get the test completed? There was a 7-day period between when the testing company had allowed the city to release the results compared to when residents at Jacob Reese found out. It is extremely inconsiderate that NYCHA residents were the last ones to hear about this, even though they are the ones directly impacted. I do have to say, NYCHA was encouraged to have meetings all throughout that process, and they refused. We need to know what is the process for informing individuals in emergency situations and whether NYCHA followed its procedures. If there's no process in place, then one has to be created and implemented immediately. Lastly, knowledge and information is power. NYCHA cannot render its residents powerless to determine what are the necessary steps to take for their health and the health of their family. Residents can make informed decisions, but they first need to be informed. I do have to say as well that I know this is a systemic issue. Having been through 3 different people in charge, it is clear just removing one person is not going to fix the system. It is in deeply entrenched systemic problems that are happening with NYCHA. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First, we're going to hear from tenant leaders. So if you could come up, the president of Reese, Daphne Williams, Madam President, and then Yusena Vargas, and then on the Zoom, we will hear from Assembly Member Epstein. And while they're coming up, I want to thank for joining us, Councilmember De La Rosa, Mealy, Williams, and Farias. And if the Assembly member is there, why don't you join us on the Zoom? Harvey Epstein. Assembly member, are you there? Go ahead, Ms. Williams. President, Madam President, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daphne Williams, president of Jacob Reese Houses. Now,
You may testify. Go ahead.
yes, about our water situation at NYCHA. To say that fear was that we were in fear, we were more than in fear. Because to know that
Hi, this is just Assemblymember Epstein staff. We're just logging in and
Okay.
to see what's going on at the hearing.
Okay, wait a little while because the president is speaking.
okay, to say that fear is a factor is more than fear. To be called out of your homes at 8 o'clock at night to tell you that there's a possibility that the water has arsenic in it, it scares you, okay? And then they tell you that you can't drink the water, you can't cook with the water, and some people didn't even want to bathe with the water because they were scared. And I believe that to do something, for us to go through something like that is unacceptable. And I'm very angry with how NYCHA came and showed that they didn't, it seemed like they didn't really care about the residents of Jacob Riis houses. Because 1 minute they tell us it's not arsenic, and then they have other vendors that, as you said, that gave the results back to us and said it was arsenic. So that gave confusion. And confusion is something that someone don't want to go through because you don't know whether to go to the right or to the left, and who's lying and who's not. And who that said that there is no arsenic in the water, how are we to know? Because lead could be in the water, and we're drinking that water. And then our elderly, sick, and shut-in, they didn't even have the ability to someone to come out and tell them or speak with them. So we had to go and talk with them and let them know, okay, we're trying to rectify this thing, and we're trying to let you know that we're going to be all right. But who would say that we're going to be all right when NYCHA is not telling us that we are? Because they're not, and we're not all right. We're not comfortable with the founders of this, and we won't be comfortable for a long time because this is unacceptable. And not only the water, but even last Wednesday, the structure of our buildings, the pillars, was corroded, and they was going to say that they may need to evacuate the building, but which they didn't have to. But the tenants shouldn't even have to go through that. So Jacob Riis is going through a lot these times. Even the outage of the gas outage. People have been out of gas outages for 6 months. They can't cook. They have to use hot plates. You go home, you go to work, and when you come home from work, you got to think, because you want to function through your days at work, but you can't because you got to go home wondering how you're going to manage, how you're going to cook, what are you going to do. And when you do 2 hot plates, one goes out, then your outage goes out, then the lights goes out. So that's a lot to go through. So Jacob Riis is going through a lot. Not only the gas outage, but also the soil. There's a lot of construction going on in Jacob Riis. And the turn of the soils, we don't know what the air quality is of that because we're breathing it. We have so much dirt piles over there that's going into our windows. We can't sit on the benches because it's going inside our nose, and the children can't play. You know, you got to be careful that the kids don't touch the dirt because kids play and they touch. Okay, the leads in the home, they can't touch because there's so much out in the homes, in the Jacob Riis houses, in the apartments, that is unlivable and is unsafe. And the quality of life is going down. And I fought NYCHA for that, and I called them accountability for that in all that we're going through. Because as I say, not only Jacob Riis, but housing development all around the boroughs are going through a lot. And I thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. We're going to hear from Assemblymember Epstein, and I also want to thank Councilmember Ressler for being here. Assembly member, it's all yours. And then we'll ask you questions if you don't mind. If you could just wait, Madam President.
Starting time.
Hi, this is a staff member of Harvey Epstein, so I'm just taking notes.
Ms. Vargas, are you here to join? Yep, come on up. Thank you. While we're waiting for the Assembly member. I hate Zoom. Come on up. Go ahead and then identify yourself. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yesenia Vargas, and I'm a tenant of Riis for 15 years. I'm sorry for the inconvenience and having to move the meeting over here because of the space, but honestly, we do not feel comfortable at this point in time to testify here, and we would like the meeting to be done in our neighborhood, and that is what we are recommending at this point. We collectively have decided that that is what we want because this has been a huge inconvenience to us as residents of Riis, and we are just pretty much done at this point. We are angry, and we just want to be considered. It's just been too much. And right now, my anxiety is just really, I don't even know what to say. Like, this is my day off, and I'm here because I care. I work for Goals, but I'm also a tenant, like I said, and I've been suffering, and I've been sick, and, you know, enough is enough. You know, to have to come here today and see what I saw and have to wait outside and have to wait outside again, it's just too much. It's really too much. And I'm tired. I'm tired, and we demand answers, and we demand to be treated fairly, and we have rights. We deserve answers. So we're all angry and upset, and we need to be treated just fairly, and everyone wants to just go home and be at peace. Like this week, like I was saying earlier, like I went home to no light, to no electricity. It's unfair. It's the arsenic, no electricity, you know, repairs, it's just so many things. So that is what I'm testifying today. I'm saying that we don't feel comfortable, and we want to have this meeting in our neighborhood where we feel that we are going to be heard. And that's what I have to say. Thank you for your time, and sorry for the inconvenience.
Thank you very much, and you spoke beautifully earlier and today.
Thank you.
I want to say congratulations.
Thank
really,
you.
very exceptional.
Thank you.
Is the assembly member there?
I'd like to address Ms. Vargas. Ms. Vargas, thank you so much for your testimony. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think we need to bring government to the people and do these things in the community. So I understand your requests, and I hear your frustration and aggravation. And so I just want to say that for the record. I think I don't know actually legally, because we are bound by specific constraints around open government laws on how we deal with that, but I just want to say that I agree with you. I think we need to do more in the community. I think having hearings during the day is good for the folks that work in government and not good for the people we serve, who should be able, to whom these meetings should be accessible and should be later. So I just want to say that for the record. I thank you.
So the assembly member is not able to testify. I don't know if there are any questions other for these two amazing individuals.
Thank you so much for saying that. It means a lot. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I don't know government either, but you know, whatever you guys can do, we, you know, obviously look into it, because we would appreciate for you guys to take the time and come to the community. I mean, I think after all we've gone through, that will mean so much. You know, what we saw today obviously wasn't what we wanted to see. You know, coming here and coming into a space that was so small and waiting outside, that was really unacceptable. But thank you.
The assembly member is speaking. Assembly member Epstein.
Starting time.
And thank you, Councilmember Brewer, and I appreciate everyone taking the time. And I know I don't want to repeat what's been said, but this is this crisis that we've had with Reese houses isn't just started with the water issue and related to the arsenic. This is a crisis that we have in faith in our public housing developments, and what NYCHA has and has not done, and how they have and have not communicated to tenants, and then how they treat the tenants, the city council, our state legislative leader as a partner instead of in the work that we're doing. We all want to improve public housing, and we will believe in the importance of public housing in our city, in our state, in our country. And we really need to know what happened here, but we also need to know what we're going to do about public housing going forward, and how we ensure transparency and accountability for this. And I want to just applaud the city council for having these hearings and getting to the bottom of what happened. I still don't understand, you know, honestly, if a pump has been broken for weeks and weeks and weeks, what that impact has on the residents. Does that mean that the water isn't being pumped up to the water tank. And if that water isn't being pumped into the tank, does that mean what the sludge on the bottom of the tank is what's getting into people's waters? We don't get answers to simple questions like that. So I think this oversight hearing and the requiring NYCHA to provide over documents is a critical, important step. I'm going to be working with my state legislative colleagues to ensure we understand what's happening, and hopefully that we'll be able to work with what the amazing work that council is doing here under the leadership. Councilor Rivera has been is a leader in our community and my council member, along with the Councilman Brewer and Council Member Aviles, who's really been instrumental in ensuring that we hold NYCHA accountable. So the over 400,000 New Yorkers and the 4,000 that just live in Reese houses know what happened, and to avoid these things from happening again, and know whether their water is safe, their ground is safe, their communities are safe, their buildings aren't going to crumble. And really, we have a plan to ensure that we protect all the residents of public housing. That is our obligation to each other. That is our responsibility to our communities. And I think the city and the state need to do better. Federal government clearly needs to do better. But most importantly, NYCHA needs to do better to be accountable and responsive to the residents, not to hide information, not to ignore the issues when residents raise it, and to have a really robust process to ensure things like this never happen again. And when things are happening, that they communicate clearly and thoroughly with the residents that live there, because what they do is stoke fear that wasn't necessary. So again, I appreciate taking a few minutes of your time, and appreciate all your leadership. And I look forward to our collaboration going forward to ensure that we protect our public housing for decades to come.
Thank you. And now we'd like to hear from the administration, if you'd like to come up. NYCHA, DEP, Department of Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will now administer the oath to the members of the administration who are present to testify and answer questions. Lisa Bova-Hyatt, Eva Trimble, Daniel Green, Vincent Sapienza, and Corinne Schiff. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these committees, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you. You may begin when ready.
Chairs Alexa Aviles, Gail Brewer, and James Gennaro, members of the Committees on Public Housing, Oversight and Investigations, and Environmental Protection, other distinguished members of the City Council, NYCHA residents, elected officials, and members of the public, good afternoon. I am Lisa Bova-Hyatt, NYCHA's Interim Chief Executive Officer. I am pleased to be joined by Eva Trimble, NYCHA's Chief Operating Officer, Daniel Green, Senior Vice President for Healthy Homes, and other members of NYCHA's team. Our partners, Vincent Sapienza, Chief Operating Officer of the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, and Corinne Schiff, Deputy Commissioner of Environmental Health at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, are also with us today. I was recently appointed interim CEO of NYCHA as part of our transformation and implementation plan efforts to separate the roles of CEO and chair of the board of directors and strengthen our organization. I have dedicated my entire career to public service, and I come to this role after serving as NYCHA's general counsel for more than 2 years. We understand the recent events at Reese Houses have been very upsetting to residents. And I want to begin by telling them publicly that we are 100% committed to restoring their confidence in the drinking water, a vital necessity. We are also committed to providing a transparent and honest accounting of NYCHA's and its contractors' actions during this incident. As an organization, we have taken significant steps forward over the past 3.5 years, and part of that progress involves admitting when mistakes were made and providing a plan for correcting them. That is what we would like to do today, in addition to answering your questions about this occurrence. Before addressing Reese, I think it's important to describe some of the work that NYCHA has been doing over the past 3.5 years. Since 2019, NYCHA has been working to fundamentally transform its business models, as well as its compliance, operations, and management infrastructure, in tandem with the critical work to improve residents' quality of life through various preservation and capital programs that bring comprehensive renovations to their home. The foundation of this work, which we are carrying out in partnership with the Federal Monitor, is our transformation plan and HUD agreement. They guide our efforts to improve customer service and responsiveness to conditions at our developments, ensure that large projects are completed in a timely manner, promote accountability, manage our properties better, and use our limited funding more effectively, all while addressing critical areas that most impact our residents. For instance, we instituted a neighborhood model to create smaller property management portfolios and localize decision-making. We are rolling out the Work Order Reform Initiative to streamline repairs. We moved our janitorial scheduling to best address the unique maintenance needs of each site. We launched an online capital projects tracker to enhance transparency. We are reorganizing and strengthening our leadership structure. To date, we have generated more than $3.4 billion in capital funding for top-to-bottom building renovations for nearly 15,500 households through the PACT program. Our comprehensive modernization program will bring total renovations to additional sites. Through the newly established historic New York City Public Housing Preservation Trust, we have the opportunity to fully repair and upgrade 25,000 apartments. To improve residents' quality of life, we are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on HUD agreement pillar areas, an average of $75 million a month on capital projects alone. More than $1 billion of construction work is currently underway across NYCHA developments to replace elevators, boilers, roofs, facades, and more. Our efforts have reduced the time it takes to resolve elevator and heat outages, and we're expediting lead-based paint abatement in homes where children under 6 live or regularly visit. We are improving our procurement practices, and we established an environmental health and safety department, a quality assurance unit, and a compliance department. A key focus of the compliance department is to investigate actions taken by NYCHA staff that do not comply with rules, regulations, or internal procedures, and to then integrate a set of procedural recommendations and changes into NYCHA's daily work at the properties. We are making communication with residents and other stakeholders a priority. In 2021 alone, we published over 460 articles on our websites, drafted dozens of resident-wide emails and letters, released 45 videos, translated over 2,700 documents, fulfilled over 400 interpretation requests, posted over 3,600 items on social media, and regularly distributed robocalls to nearly 320,000 phone numbers. That same year, our customer contact center handled nearly 2 million calls. Every time there is a relevant service outage, we post flyers at developments and disseminate robocalls to residents. Our monthly rent insert provide information by mail to 105,000 households and to over 58,000 households online. Our direct mailings reach more than 162,000 households. Oftentimes, we conduct direct outreach to residents on important topics through door knocking. We also engage and communicate with residents extensively through our resident services, partnerships, and initiatives department, which ensures that residents' voices are heard through a variety of programs, services, and initiatives, including our work around resident elections.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry to do this. Can you get to the time frame? Your testimony is 11 pages long. Can you get straight to the timeline of events?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the water testing at Reese Houses. First, we would like to apologize to the residents of Reese Houses for the stress caused by the investigation into the drinking water at their development. Residents' health and safety is our top priority. Throughout the process, NYCHA endeavored to ensure residents' well-being while we assessed the situation as quickly and transparently as possible, and with regular communication to residents that included in-person meetings, robocalls, flyers, and emails in the covered languages of English, Spanish, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, and Russian. At
I'm
each
sorry,
point,
ma'am. I was asking if you could start at the timeline of events. The first bullet, page 4, from May 1st, if we could just get to the timeline of specific events, please.
Absolutely. I would like to take this opportunity to clarify some of the public reports related to the timeline of events surrounding when NYCHA first learned about a possible exceedance of arsenic levels in the drinking water at Reese Houses and what NYCHA did about it. Please note that this reflects the facts that we have currently at the moment, and that this is an ongoing investigation. From May 1st through September 3rd, 2022, NYCHA received 93 complaints about cloudy water from Reese Houses residents. The bulk of these complaints started the week of July 3rd and subsided by August 27th. And most of them came from buildings serviced by the water systems flowing from Building 11. In those months, we undertook a number of strategies to address these issues, including cleaning and having our vendor retest the water tank, eventually repairing one of the house pumps serving the Building 11 roof tank, and asking DEP to test the water mains. In addition, in responding to such complaints, a maintenance worker will go to the apartment, remove a faucet's aerator, cleaning it of any debris, and run the water. If this doesn't resolve the matter, a plumber will examine the building's equipment, the house pumps, to determine the source of the issue. If necessary, a roof tank cleaning or re-cleaning is conducted. On August 13th, Liquitech, a vendor previously retained by NYCHA, collected samples at the point of entry to Building 11 at Reese Houses in response to concerns raised by residents and elected officials about water quality at the development. This was not required by any law or regulation. This was something NYCHA decided to do voluntarily to gather information for our residents about water quality. We worked with Liquitech to develop a plan to sample for a wide range of analytes, including arsenic, and to conduct bacteriological testing. Liquitech took additional samples in other locations at Reese Houses on August 16th and 17th. Liquitech then sent the samples from the Building 11 point of entry to the Environmental Monitoring and Technologies, Inc. laboratory, EMT, for broad spectrum testing. EMT is not a New York State Environmental Laboratory Accreditation Program certified lab. I understand that EMT does have certifications and credentials from Illinois NELAP, DOD ELAP, and others. Liquitech sent other samples to Special Pathogens Laboratory, which conducted the bacteria testing. SPL is an ELAP certified laboratory. On August 25th, NYCHA followed up with Liquitech for the test results, suggesting that partial results could be sent ahead of full results. Liquitech had informed NYCHA that they hoped to begin providing results within 2 weeks. As you can see on our website, other tests by DEP were ongoing at a hydrant adjacent to the property during this time, and results had been received by NYCHA. On Friday, August 26th, EMT finalized its report, which is why it is dated August 26th. However, NYCHA did not receive the report from Liquitech until the morning of Monday, August 29th, after NYCHA had again followed up via email with Liquitech that morning. The analysis by EMT reported an estimated value of arsenic at 12.2 parts per billion, which is above the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency standard established in 2001 of 10 parts per billion. However, the report also showed that the laboratory had a reporting limit of 12.5 parts per billion, which means the smallest concentration the laboratory would need to report with precision was 12.5 parts per billion. To put a finer point on it, this reporting limit was slightly above the actual reported result, and the lab could not confirm the result with full confidence. As you can see online, this value of 12.2 parts per billion was also defined by EMT as a qualified J, or estimated value. Because this was an estimated value, and there were uncertainties regarding the accuracy of the result, NYCHA's staff made the prudent decision, based on this report, to try to get a confirmed result with additional tests. NYCHA staff instructed Liquitech to collect additional samples at Reese Houses the following morning, on August 30th. NYCHA staff also reported this plan to NYCHA's executive leadership on the afternoon of August 29th. On August 30th, Liquitech collected 2 samples at the point of entry for Building 11, 1 sample at the point of entry at Building 8, 2 apartment samples in Building 11, and 1 apartment in Building 8. EMT received these samples on August 31st. On September 1st, in the afternoon, Liquitech informed NYCHA that 5 of the 6 samples were above the contaminant limit for arsenic, and Liquitech produced a report from EMT showing levels of arsenic among these samples between 13.6 and 14.1 parts per billion. Within a few hours, NYCHA leadership notified DEP as well as DOHMH. DEP immediately coordinated with NYCHA to take samples for arsenic the next morning at the point of entry. On September 2nd, DEP sampled water at the hydrant it previously tested twice for other parameters in mid-August, and DEP also took samples from the Building 11 point of entry, testing for arsenic in addition to other standard parameters. Also on September 2nd, DOHMH advised NYCHA that, out of an abundance of caution, it should issue a drinking water advisory and tell residents to not drink or cook with the water. DOHMH also advised that NYCHA should flush the buildings before retesting the water. NYCHA convenes its executive leadership team to discuss next steps and an action plan for immediately implementing DOHMH's recommendations. City Hall was notified of the results, and NYCHA and City Hall began notifying elected officials and community partners. NYCHA notified residents via flyers, emails, and robocalls, and the public about the elevated levels. The robocall to residents was in all of the covered languages. The email and flyer were distributed in English while the translations were being completed. We notified the Reese Houses Resident Association president, as well as other members of the Reese Resident Association and the chair of the Citywide Council of Presidents before the robocalls went out. A script was provided to the CCC call takers with information for residents. NYCHA also began distributing potable water. Water was distributed 24 hours a day, every day, from September 2nd through September 11th. In total, 46,000 gallons of water were distributed thanks to the assistance of New York City Emergency Management, New York State, the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, and community partners. In addition, DEP set up 2 water stations that provided access to water 24 hours a day. Approximately 1,200 households picked up water each day from the distribution site, while NYCHA delivered water to approximately 150 households each day.
Forgive me, I just have to do one more interruption. I have to acknowledge the residents from Goals are not able to stay at this hearing, and as you have heard, have requested us to bring the hearing to the community. And I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. And I commit to you that I will look into making sure that we get to the community and do this hearing in the community. So thank you. Yeah, you may resume.
Thank you. Liquitech later also shared with NYCHA the preliminary results from Liquitech's bacterial testing conducted in mid-August. NYCHA shared this information with DEP, DOHMH, and City Hall. Liquitech advised that the results were preliminary and should not be relied upon to determine whether water quality standards were exceeded. DEP reviewed the results and informed NYCHA that the species preliminarily identified are common to the New York City water system and that bacterial growth can be common in certain taps, especially if they have not been disinfected and as a result of the flushing. DOHMH also reviewed and stated that prior cleaning or removal of the aerators, flushing the tap, and disinfection are recommended to get representative results, which Liquitech confirmed had not happened. Some of the samples also showed the presence of Legionella bacteria, and so NYCHA immediately consulted with DOHMH to determine next steps with respect to this finding. According to DOHMH, Reese Houses did not meet the criteria to initiate remediation protocols for Legionella, which follows CDC guidance. NYCHA also then had LERO collect 22 additional samples to analyze for the standard bacteria tests for drinking water, including total coliform and E. coli, and 35 additional samples that included total coliform, E. coli, and heterotrophic plate count, which apparently is a method used to measure the variety of bacteria that are common in water. The results did not indicate that any area of concern within the Reese campus and also met EPA safety standards for drinking water. This timeline from August 29th to September 2nd demonstrates that NYCHA informed its expert agency partners and the public promptly upon receiving confirmed reports that there were elevated levels of arsenic at Reese, reports that turned out to be false positives. NYCHA acted quickly to try to confirm a result that was based on an estimated value below the laboratory's reporting limit by collecting additional samples. In addition, as soon as a confirmed result was received by NYCHA on September 1st, the authority informed experts at DEP and DOHMH. NYCHA then began to work with our agency partners to implement next steps that would help protect the health and safety of the residents of Reese houses. From that point forward, NYCHA worked to implement a plan that would help ensure the water was safe to drink before the advisory could be lifted. This included following DOHMH's guidance regarding flushing the water systems, procuring a new vendor to take samples from approximately 140 locations throughout Reese houses, coordinating access so that DEP could take their own samples, and working to provide potable water on a regular basis while communicating with residents. Of course, as we all know now, EMT would subsequently retract all of their results on September 9th, 2022. In addition to ongoing water testing to demonstrate its safety, we've committed to holding additional periodic meetings with Reese Houses residents in collaboration with the Reese Resident Association, and we're issuing a reimbursement to Reese residents. This had been discussed at a post-action plan meeting that we held recently with resident association members and elected officials. I'd like to give a special acknowledgement to our resident services, partnerships, and initiatives staff, as well as our operations and emergency management and services teams for delivering water to about 150 seniors and homebound residents daily, knocking on every door at Reese houses to flush the water system and provide information, and providing other assistance when needed. In collaboration with the Resident Association, we worked with our nonprofit partners to provide meals to residents. For instance, ICNA Relief provided initially over 500 and then about 4,000 meals each day, as well as fresh fruit. Vision Urbana provided pantry items. Also, our Office of Public-Private Partnerships worked with a nonprofit organization, Good Neighbor Collective, to provide backpacks and school supplies to Reese residents. Operations staff were on site around the clock to assist with water distribution and other matters, and emergency management and services staff were on site on a nearly 24/7 basis. We assigned a strong contingent of staff on the ground so that we could visit every single apartment at least 3 times over the course of 11 days, addressing repairs or services requested by the residents. In addition, staff were available at a tent we set up to follow up on concerns or issues raised by residents and answer questions. NYCHA leadership was also on the ground every day from about 7:30 a.m. into as late as midnight, connecting with resident association members throughout the day in person or by phone to keep them abreast of every new development in real time. We also communicated regularly with elected officials via in-person meetings, Zoom and phone calls, and texts. New York City Emergency Management, DOHMH, DEP, and the NYPD were also on site daily for several days, the latter two agencies on a 24/7 basis for a portion of the time period. Spanish, Mandarin, and Cantonese interpreters were also on site to assist during the flush of the water system on September 3rd and during a public meeting held with residents on September 9th. In addition, Spanish and Mandarin interpreters were on site daily to assist from September 8th through 11th. Throughout the investigation, we sent an initial email to residents, disseminated 9 robocalls, and posted 6 different flyers, all in the covered languages of English, Spanish, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, and Russian. We also updated the script for CCC call takers periodically. Resident outreach as part of our Sandy recovery work has been particularly robust at Reese Houses. Residents have access to a dedicated construction liaison, email and phone hotline, and interpreters. They receive bi-weekly construction progress emails and can participate in community meetings. There are also weekly check-ins with resident leaders, depending on their availability. Since the Sandy recovery work started, there have been nearly 250 meetings, 42,000 phone calls, including robocalls, and 12,000 flyers posted about the construction work. I don't want to leave the council with the impression that I think NYCHA did everything right. We did not. Since NYCHA signed our agreement with HUD in January 2019, we have not been shy about calling out our mistakes and being transparent about what needs to change. To that end, we are committed to evaluating each step NYCHA took or did not take at Reese Houses related to water quality. This evaluation is critical to ensure we improve our performance as a property manager. Our compliance department and environmental health and safety department are actively working with the Federal Monitor, the New York City Department of Investigation's Inspector General for NYCHA, and others to evaluate what went wrong at Reese Houses and what we need to do to improve. Although the investigation is ongoing, we have already identified 4 key matters we need to improve here at NYCHA. First, we need to do a better job sourcing and managing vendors. Clearly, the performance of the vendor chosen to do and collect the first round of samples and the laboratory chosen by the vendor did not perform up to the standard we expect. But we also know that it is the responsibility of NYCHA staff to properly manage any vendor, including by establishing a clear scope of work and by insisting that all the samples be sent to a laboratory certified for the evaluation and analysis we are seeking. Second, we need to do a better job communicating with our residents. We should be informing resident leadership every step of the way when we are dealing with something as essential as drinking water. Third, we need to do a better job assessing the performance and function of critical mechanical systems. In this case, early indications suggest that the failure of one of the 2 house pumps in Building 11 that pumps water up to one of the Reese Houses roof tanks may have been the root cause of the cloudy water complaints. Complaints were generally concentrated in a specific time frame where we believe the system was not functioning fully, and virtually all of the complaints came from the buildings that are serviced by the Building 11 roof tank. It is true that many of NYCHA's mechanical systems are old, beyond their useful life, and difficult to maintain. However, it is also true that NYCHA must do better when it comes to identifying mechanical system failures, and then NYCHA must act quickly to remedy the problem. In this case, we already know that efforts to solve the problem took too long. And finally, NYCHA needs to set up a standard protocol for what we do when there are complaints of cloudy water. This means we must define what constitutes an emergency situation and work to set up clear benchmarks for when our agency partners and the public must be notified about a situation at a NYCHA development, among other items. This work is critical, and we look forward to hearing the Council's recommendations on how NYCHA can continue to improve. We know this was a very disturbing and upsetting experience for our residents, and we are truly sorry that this happened. We are glad that the water is safe. The lab issued a full retraction and acknowledged its error, and that we were able to get to the truth of the matter quickly. Everything we do and every decision that we make is driven by our concern for our residents' health and safety. Thank you for your partnership, and we strive to foster safe and healthy communities for NYCHA residents while transforming our organization. We will continue to keep you updated, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We want to thank Councilmember Christian for being here, and then Councilmember Aviles, and then Councilmember Rivera, and then we'll take questions from others.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will start with the first order of council recommendations is that in a hearing like this, we should get straight to the chatter. And get rid of pages of what NYCHA has accomplished through the transformation plan, but really focus on the task at hand. I'm going to start big picture, then we're going to dive into very specifics. Obviously, at the end of your testimony mentions all the places where they're faltered. We're going to revisit those, of course. But in terms of, in 2021, New Yorkers went to the polls and voted in support of New York's proposal to establishing the right to clean water, air, and a healthful environment in our state constitution. Does the panel agree that New Yorkers have the right to clean water, air, and a healthful environment?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you tell us very quickly the demographics at Reese? How many residents live at Reese houses?
Thank you, Councilmember. At Reese Houses, we have 3,700 residents across approximately 1,700 apartments, and about just over 1,000 residents are 62 or older.
1,000 seniors. Mm-hmm. And do you know how many of those residents have children living with them?
I don't have that information in front of me, but I will get it for you over the course of this hearing.
Do you know how many of these residents have medical or mobility conditions?
I will find that out for you right now.
Do you agree that when residents do not have running water or drinkable water, they are in a vulnerable state?
Yes, of course.
Do you agree that if residents do not have running or drinkable water, that they are being deprived of their right to clean water, air, and a healthful environment?
Yes.
So in terms of, I'd like to just go through, you've run through the facts in your testimony, but I'd like to go through a little bit of what's supposed to have happened. And I think you started to touch upon that. So before we get into these questions, we want to establish for the record what's supposed to have happened when there's a potential of water contamination and if there is a spike in water complaints at a NYCHA development. So what is the standard policy and procedure NYCHA follows when a spike in water complaints occur? Is there a threshold that triggers additional actions? And can you submit that policy in writing to our committees?
Thank you, Council Member. And again, I want to reiterate how the unfortunate situation that the residents have been through, and that we're happy that the water is now safe and that the lab retracted the results. So NYCHA does not yet have a threshold of the number of complaints that would trigger water testing. In its portfolio of over 270 developments, they vary considerably across the number of units and the size and configuration. However, we are open to recommendations on how we might use complaints and related data effectively. As mentioned, as part of this ongoing effort, there is an ongoing investigation, and we are looking forward to working with that investigation to see if there are policy and procedural recommendations that we can consider for setting up a threshold.
So,
However, when there are...
Excuse me, Ms. Trimble. So are you saying there is no standard policy and procedure?
Not a threshold for water complaints. However, when there are cloudy water complaints, we start by having a maintenance worker go to the apartment and check the faucets, see what's going on in the apartment, see if an aerator needs to be cleaned or the water needs to be flushed out. If that doesn't work, we will recommend a plumber to come and investigate the pipes. And if that doesn't work, we will also look at the building systems, such as things like the house pumps. If it continues, we would also, as we did in this case, recommend another roof tank cleaning and retesting of the water.
Okay. After multiple tests show there is potential for contamination, at what point, again, is the decision made to notify the tenants not to drink the water? Who makes the final decision, and what agencies submit input to inform that decision?
So we have never had this situation as we faced recently. We received, as Ms. Bova-Hyatt mentioned, we received the initial preliminary estimated results on Monday, August 29th. When we received those results, you can imagine arsenic it was unprecedented to see, as there has never been a detectable amount of arsenic in New York City's water before. Upon getting those results and seeing them as an estimate, we decided to retest for arsenic. It was because our staff decided to order a broad spectrum of testing that we got those results in the first place. And that was because we were concerned about the welfare of our residents, given the number of cloudy water complaints we were getting. When we got the first results, it was based on just one sample. This is like a doctor diagnosing a patient upon a first and initial test. Usually they will go back and order additional tests before they determine a course of intensive treatment. That is the decision process that we were looking at on Monday, August 29th. To that end, we ordered the vendor to go back and collect additional samples on August 30th. On September 1st, that Thursday, we got the results back from those additional samples, and once again, they were showing detectable amounts of arsenic. It was at that point that we called in our agency partners, DEP and DOH-MH, who have the expertise in both water quality and health issues to help guide us in this process of what to do with these results and how to interpret them.
So we'll get back to those very particular steps, and we'll want to inquire specifically who and how this operation moved forward. But can you walk us through your process of alerting tenants of a building-wide emergency?
Sure. In this case, once we had a final determination from DOH-MH, we needed to come up with a plan of action that included DOH-MH advising that we should be flushing all of the apartments. So we had to collect the information we needed to communicate with the residents about what was happening. We drafted the robocalls and the flyers, as Ms. Bova-Hyatt explained, and at about 7:30 p.m. on Friday, we were on site distributing water. The buildings were all being flyered with flyers in English while we awaited translation, and the initial robocalls went out at about 9 p.m.
9 p.m. what day?
Friday, September 2nd. We also reached out directly to the Resident Association President, the Resident Association Board, and the Citywide Council of Presidents.
I'm gonna, there's so many discrepancies with the time frame. It's very hard to keep track of. Is there any guidance provided to tenants relevant to the emergency that they were confronting in this case? health guidance sent to residents indicating what symptoms to watch out for that could result from exposure to arsenic?
We did work with Department of Health to have a Department of Health table at the site a few days later and distribute information about possible health effects and to answer questions that residents may have.
But there was no other communication provided to the residents in terms of what they were potentially facing?
Not on Friday, September 2nd.
Was there any information provided at any point in time beyond the table that was available? Any written information, robocalls?
I would like to refer to our partners at DOH-MH to explain their efforts to communicate with residents during that week.
Good afternoon. I'm Corinne Schiff. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Health at the Health Department. So as you heard, we had staff on site at a table taking questions, being able to talk to residents one-on-one. Your question is about before we were on site at Reese Houses. And what I think is important to recognize first, of course, is that the results that the lab first issued have now been retracted, and all of the other tests, the tests that DEP did and the tests that NYCHA's second environmental consultant conducted, all of those showed that there was no arsenic to be concerned about, no arsenic in the water at Reese Houses. Assuming that the levels had been correct, the ones that had been initially reported, you wouldn't see health effects. The health effects that you would see immediately when you have an exposure to arsenic would be at levels thousands of times higher than what was initially reported.
That is very difficult to hear. Why then would the agency order a stop, drink, and don't use if it has no health impacts?
So it has no immediate health impacts. What NYCHA saw, the results that were then retracted, was levels above the EPA standard. And so the most protective thing for NYCHA to do was to treat that as real and to take the steps that you would take if that was a real situation, which we were assuming at the time that it was. And you would flush the system to remove arsenic and then test again to make sure that that flushing was successful. So the threshold level set by EPA is for exposure. We don't want that kind of exposure. And so this was the step that was the most protective to take. As it turned out, we learned later that those results were incorrect.
I'm going to pass it over to Councilmember Rivera.
And excuse me, Councilmember, if you may, I just wanted to answer the question that you asked earlier. There are 289 mobility impaired residents at Reese and 319 families with children. 289 mobility impaired. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being here. And I want to thank the chairs again for their leadership on this issue and for calling this hearing on something that is specific to a location, but it is clearly part of larger systemic issues. During a September 6th briefing hosted by City Hall, we were told that the laboratory that did the testing was not licensed to do testing for metals. And in your testimony, you said that the lab was not ELAP certified. How long has this contracted company been doing testing for NYCHA? How was this vendor selected? And why would NYCHA select a vendor that was not certified in all regards by New York State?
Thank you, Council Member, for those questions. I'm happy to answer them for you today. In 2019, NYCHA sought bids to manage our Legionella work. This vendor was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at the time. So this vendor has been on contract with us since about 2019. On the night of Friday, August 12th, when we had excessive cloudy water complaints and decided to take the additional step to do additional testing, We sought one of our vendors who was available on the weekend to do this work. Our first vendor that we called was not available, and so then we called Liquitech, and they said they would make themselves available on an emergency basis to come Saturday morning to the site to take the tests for us.
So you had retained this vendor previously?
Yes.
Have you had any issues with them before? In this case, they provided a false positive. Is it possible in the past they could have provided a false negative?
This vendor has been on contract with us since 2019, but I want to reiterate that NYCHA did not select the lab EMT. That was selected by the vendor and was not in compliance with our contract that requires them to follow state, local, and federal rules for selecting their lab.
But you all selected the vendor that selected the lab?
We did select the vendor, and they...
So you realize when you trace it back, it comes back to you?
Understood. Out of caution and understanding the concerns that this vendor raised, we went back to everything they have performed for us since 2019. We've reviewed all the test results and all the labs that they have previously used. They have never previously used EMT before, which we were happy to find. They have used 2 other laboratories, both of which are New York State ELAP certified.
Will you ever use EMT again?
We did not previously choose EMT, and we will not allow EMT to be used again.
So what is the process NYCHA follows for the selection and hiring for laboratories or any other external service as a provider? And can you confirm the laboratories that exist in New York State are in order to test water, some of the best in the country? Is that correct? And if so, why outsource it to a different state? Was it because of the urgent timeline that you described?
I can't speak to the quality of the labs in New York State versus other states, but I can't speak to why Liquitech chose EMT for this purpose.
Who can speak to that? DEP?
The vendor,
Thank you, Councilmember. I can't speak for the quality of labs in other states. I was, thank you. Thanks. But I can speak to the process in New York State to become accredited, which is very robust. The New York State Department of Health makes New York City's drinking water labs go through a number of steps to demonstrate capabilities every year. We are given samples of unknown quantities, but the State Health Department knows.
Can you just give us your name and title?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm Vincent Sapienza, the Chief Operating Officer at the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. But again, just in summary, the state's program to certify and accredit laboratories in the state is very rigorous.
So, don't go anywhere, please. I just want to know so are you the department, or is it NYCHA, or is it the mayor's office in charge of hiring providers for the type of testing that would transpire over these couple weeks? If so, what is the name of the person who is in charge of that department?
So again, this vendor was procured in 2019. And when we got the second round of results that were, of course, doubtful to us, considering the fact that arsenic has never been present in the water, we decided to continue to do another round of full testing with a different vendor. That was a vendor, an environmental consulting firm, Lero, that we have on contract with us also, and we called on Lero to conduct the next round of testing.
I think my time is up. Can I have 2 more questions? Oh, okay, great. So I noticed, as was mentioned by Chair Aviles, that Greg Russ is not here. He is now the chairman, not the CEO. So I appreciate your apology. It would have been nice to hear it from him. What was the active role of then CEO Greg Russ during this situation?
At the time that this happened, Greg Russ was the chair and the CEO. He was included in all emails and discussions regarding this matter. He was on site at Reese houses on the Saturday and Sunday of the event, that Labor Day weekend, and he was also present at the public meeting that was held the following weekend at the request of or sponsored by the Tenant Association.
You know, I saw him both those times, and I was thankful for his physical presence. And in a conversation we had on-site on the campus at Jacob Riis, he said that commitments were going to be made to the residents. And so I'd like to hear from you all on the record, what commitments have you made to the residents of families of Jacob Riis? Some examples: compensation, medical testing, water filtration, ongoing testing, regular meetings. Can you outline a list, please?
Sure. Why don't we start, since our chief operating officer was at the first meeting and subsequent meetings, I will turn the floor over to her.
Sure. So we, as Ms. Bova had said, we've had multiple meetings with the Resident Association. We have committed to provide a $200 reimbursement to every household at Riis Houses. In addition, we've agreed to do smaller group meetings with the residents, so probably a few buildings at a time, in order to be able to sit with the residents in a small space and really answer their questions and have a discussion with the residents about what happened and explain the test results. NYCHA has also committed to doing additional testing of the water over the next few months, and I'd like to hand it to Senior Vice President Dan Green, who oversees that testing process.
Thank you, and thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak here today. So I was at Riis just yesterday, meeting with Ms. Williams. We'll be doing another round of testing this weekend for the same constituents. Again, the purpose of this testing is to build confidence. As we have discussed here, no arsenic was discovered and the original results were retracted, but we need to build confidence back with the Riis residents in their water quality, because it's vital for their day-to-day lives and for their health and for their health. So we'll be doing 52 locations this weekend, and then we've committed to twice monthly testing frequency of a similar amount of locations. We'll also be meeting pretty much on a weekly basis, if or more if needed, to walk through the results. Yesterday we had our environmental contractor meet with Ms. Williams so she could meet them. We put up flyers at the buildings today, actually, to let people know that we're going to be there, and I'll be there tomorrow to oversee the testing with one of my team members. So we'll be doing that with Lero, and then everything will go to an ELAP accredited lab in New York State. It's in Long Island. It's just a drive away. It's a good laboratory that we sent to DEP before we chose them to make sure that we were using a good quality laboratory. So that will be over the next 4 months. We'll be doing that work. And we're hopeful that through these conversations, we will really build back confidence and also support Ms. Williams as she tries to explain this situation to her residents. And that's what we really want to provide, that support to her. Everything will be made publicly available. Everything will be posted online, and we will put everything into the management office for residents who do not use the internet frequently, so that they can review it, and then we'll also meet as needed to explain it.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask a quick follow-up question, Councilmember?
Chairwoman.
I'm sorry if I missed it. What was the commitment? How much testing will be done, the frequency?
Twice monthly, starting this weekend. So we will be going out tomorrow. We're going to do 52 locations. So let me explain what's going to be included specifically. Per my discussion with Ms. Williams, we agree the focus should be on the high-rise buildings. Those high-rise buildings are connected to the roof tanks. The low-rise buildings are not. There was really never any concern at all with the low-rise buildings, but we applied the advisory and did testing there just out of an abundance of caution. But we're going to focus this follow-up testing on the high-rise buildings. We'll do 48 samples in apartments. We'll select them strategically so they're on different floors, and then we will also sample the roof tanks, and we will also sample where the points of entry where the water enters buildings 11 and building 8. The results should be received next week, and as they get received, we will post them on our website and make sure that everyone is aware where they're posted prominently, so that folks can review those. If there are any issues or any exceedances, we will immediately notify pretty much everyone at this point to make sure that everyone is aware of what we've seen. don't expect that, but we're prepared with that, and we'll keep our partners at DEP and Department of Health in the loop as well. And then we provided actually a written plan to Ms. Williams, and I can send it to this council members if you'd like to. It is a draft plan, and it's iterative, so if things need to be added or updated, we can do that. But we do want to get going. Ms. Williams specifically wanted us to come out this weekend, so we have enough ready to get going. And then from there, we'll come out in early October. We haven't selected the weekend yet. We'll probably always do it on a weekend. We had less access when we did the testing over on the weekdays, so we want to do them on Saturdays, really, try to get everything done on a Saturday. So we haven't selected the next Saturday, but if anyone has any suggestions, we're open to it. But we'd be doing 2 more samples in October, 2 more in November, and then 2 more events in December. I think at that point we will pause and see what is shown by those tests and if the community is comfortable. But obviously, if we need to go further here, this was obviously a very public and very upsetting and hugely disturbing event. So if we need to go further, we can. But we're going to focus on that 4-month period right now, and really have some intensive conversations about water quality on the property as well. I've also asked to be looped in on any cloudy water complaints, and we will monitor the Reese House's work orders to see if any cloudy water complaints come in. And if they do, we will schedule visits to those apartments with equipment to look at the color and contrast of the water. I've seen a lot of samples come out of Reese. I was there for 5 days during this course to oversee the sampling work. Everything that we saw that came out from our 200 or so samples that we collected was clear. So it was clear. We want to document that for the, for everyone to see. So we'll make sure we take photographs of the water as it comes out. But if we do receive any cloudy water complaints, we will investigate it. We will bring equipment to look at if it's cloudy, if it measures. There's actually a machine you can use that can read the turbidity in the water, they call it. And then we'll investigate it with our operations department to see if there is a valid cloudy water complaint. So we want to do that over the next few months as well as part of this effort.
Yeah, how did you determine the 140 locations throughout Reese Houses that you decided to test and sample for bacteria and arsenic?
So good question. Thank you for that question. The Sunday that we began, we wanted to do a robust sampling, and we wanted to cover the entire property. So our initial focus on Sunday was on buildings 11 and buildings 8. So the first priority of areas that we wanted to sample were the apartments that had tested positive for arsenic previously. The point of entry in building 8, DEP at that point had already resampled the point of entry in building 11, and it had come back as a non-detect. Then we also wanted to do the roof tanks, which had never been tested. So those were our first priority sites. Then, consistent with DOHMH protocols and my own knowledge as an environmental attorney, we wanted to go upstream and downstream from where the positives, meaning if it was on the 6th floor, we would want to go to the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th floor to test those apartments because it's sharing the same plumbing system. So if you saw arsenic in an apartment, you would expect to see it above or below. So we focused on buildings 8 and 11, and we did the lines where the prior positives have been located, plus an additional line in those buildings.
So it's complaint driven. And what are the addresses of 8 and 11?
Those were not complaint driven. I do not know, honestly, I was not involved. 8 is 466, and I think 11 is 463. I know the building numbers. I don't know the street addresses. I have it in my notes. I can provide that though. I don't know how the original apartments were selected. I only know where they were tested positive.
Anyone here know how you determined the selection of locations? If they weren't complaint driven?
I can't speak to that right now.
And here's why I asked, because you sent documented complaints in response to the chair's letter. And in those complaints, was it that you noticed the trends and that's how you determined the locations? Were certain buildings calling more than others? which ones were they? When the mayor went to Reese Houses with the commissioner of Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, they went into a building to drink water directly from the tap to show that the water was safe to consume. From what I understand in reporting, they went into 118 Avenue D. And I know that I'm getting into addresses, but this is very important to the families, but also for consistency and just outright honesty. So if you have them going into 118, but you're testing 466 and maybe 465, and I certainly have complaints from 90, 1141, 134 at the very least, I'm just wondering how you determine those 140 locations and whether they were in more than 2 buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm sorry. I was telling a very long story, so I was trying to be detailed. But so first we focused on 8 and 11, but then that Sunday, which was Sunday, September 4th, we wanted to test every high-rise building. So we did 5 sample locations in each high-rise building, varying basically by floor. We wanted to alternate floors and do sampling at the high-rise building. So all high-rise buildings received 5 samples that day. The next day, on Monday, September 5th, we came back and sampled the low-rise buildings for arsenic because we wanted to make sure that we had samples from every single building, representative samples from every single building. That was the goal of where the 140 samples were located. We had no methodology to select the different apartments in the other high-rise buildings because there had been no previous test there. We did know that the high-rise buildings had interconnected plumbing with the buildings 8 and 11, but the best thing that we could do is go from top to bottom and pick a selection of apartments there. We always use occupied apartments where residents were actually living. So I think if probably people saw us that day and we went there. For the bacteriological sampling, we attempted to go into the apartments where the firm had identified positive bacteriological results, but we were not always successful getting an access in those apartments. So therefore, we would move to the adjacent apartment or the apartment below it. But when we come back to the apartment to Reese Houses tomorrow, we'll make more attempts at those. I'd like to make sure that we try to get back to those apartments. So we'll make more attempts at those apartments with our subsequent testing, which is great that we're doing it because we get to do more work, and we want to make sure this is done thoroughly. So that's basically the methodology for how we selected the locations for that sampling, and that came back non-detect or well below the limit.
All right, this is my last question. I want to thank the chairs for being so gracious with the time. You mentioned that you're going to test now 2 times a month for the next 4 months. Minimum is the commitment. Doesn't the Department of Environmental Protection test all New York City water on a monthly basis anyway? And so will this be in addition to that monthly testing?
That's correct. DEP does sampling essentially every day throughout the city. So this would be in addition. And
this is going to be by NYCHA?
By NYCHA, by LERO, which is a New York State engineering and environmental firm with what I would think is a very good reputation. They're a local New York firm, and then every sample will be analyzed by an ELAP certified lab, likely Long Island Analytical, which is in Long Island, and that's who we're going to use.
Okay.
I would also just note we are going to bring representatives from that lab to meet the community. That's been a request, so we're going to schedule smaller meetings with the technical folks to really walk through how the sampling is done and what it means, so that they have the information that they can use. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure that you're also going to, you said you have your vendor retest the water tank, and I know that there was a mention in the city article that maintenance failure could be the reason now. So I'm sure you'll discuss a little bit about that, and Chair Brewer has questions for you as well. So I want to thank you for your answers, if you could elaborate on that, and I want to thank the chairs again for their leadership.
We will sample the water tanks at every visit, so they'll be sampled twice per month.
Councilmember Barron, then Councilmember Marte.
All I can say is this is a damn shame that we sitting here talking about water and the lives of people at risk. And also to Mayor Adams, he should fire Greg Russ. He should not be the chair of NYCHA. Gross mismanagement, incompetency, and the insensitivity of not coming to this hearing and at least explaining himself. And you shouldn't have accepted that from him, and we should have subpoenaed him and made him come to this hearing. But I think he should be fired, and I think that the testing should happen in all NYCHA developments. NYCHA has 335 developments, 177,000 plus units, 525,000 residents. And we had a press conference in my district with pink houses, with boulevard houses, with Linden houses, with Cypress houses, with Brookline, Penn Wortman, and all of them said their water was discolored. And you're not supposed to smell water. It's supposed to be odorless. So this is a city-wide situation, and nobody believes you. I haven't found anybody that I spoke to believes you that they made a mistake. And when you tested it, oh, it wasn't that, it was something else, it was the vendor. Nobody believes that. You lost credibility throughout this city. So I just feel that NYCHA residents are disrespected because they're predominantly black and brown, low-income people, and folk just don't care enough about NYCHA. And just to listen to this hearing, to listen to what you're saying and how you're justifying all of this is a damn shame. And I think that this body should monitor you closer. We should subpoena people when they need to come forward. NYCHA should test every development, because the same thing happened when y'all lied about lead paint. In the past, it was a lie that lead paint was tested properly in our developments, and I was on that case as well. So I don't have a whole lot to say. My colleagues did a great job. I think the residents should be the managers of the places where they live. We need to get into residential management, and NYCHA, stop privatizing and start sanitizing the water.
Councilmember Marte, and then the public advocate.
Thank you for being here. I want to thank the chairs for the phenomenal questions and dealing with all the constraints that we had today with moving the meeting here. And I would also like to thank Councilmember Herrera for her questions. This is really frustrating. We have a chair of an agency that's not willing to be here. And so my first question off the bat is, where is he? And is he in New York City? Or did he take the early flight back to Minnesota? One other question I have is that there's a lot of mistrust, as Councilmember Barron said. What are you doing to regain the trust from other NYCHA developments on the Lower East Side? I have developments from Smith Houses to LaGuardia to Rutgers asking, is my water contaminated? Is NYCHA inspecting it? Can I see the records? Can I see the data? What are you guys doing to respond to those questions? And how are you informing council members that represent those people and have to answer to those people to work with us so we could get the right answers to their hands? So please answer those questions.
Thank you very much for that question. I think you had a couple of questions, so I'll start and then I'll pass it over to my colleagues. So your first question, Mr. Russ is not in New York. But I cannot tell you where he is. All I can say is that he's not here today. With respect to the testing that has been done, I will defer to my colleague, Dan Green, who can get into that. And I would also, with respect to the water just generally, I would love to have the Commissioner, COO Vincent Sapienza talk about the water safety just generally in New York City. All of the testing that we did do is on our website. As my colleague Dan Green said, any additional testing that we will do at Reese Houses will also be on our website. But DEP, I defer to them with respect to just generally the drinking water in the city of New York.
I'll just add one more question underneath that. As we all know, Jacob Reese Houses was one of the developments that were affected by Sandy. There's a lot of renovation work doing there for resiliency. There's other NYCHA developments that have those same type of repairs and massive infrastructure changes. Do you think that had something to do with the contaminated water? And are you specifically working much closer on these sites that have these massive FEMA-funded resiliency projects?
So Dan, I don't know if you want to just say
Well,
water wasn't.
there was no contamination for arsenic in the water. In the scientific results, if you review them, show that. In the retraction from the laboratory, which was unprecedented and that probably they had to put it on their letterhead, hugely embarrassing for that laboratory, retracted all prior results. But we will continue to test, to your question of rebuilding back trust. I will be there tomorrow. We will be testing tomorrow. We will be testing, as I said, twice a month and sharing that information with residents and explaining it. In terms of Sandy sites, so the answer to your question, there was no contamination, so there was no impact for the construction. Prior to my current role, I was a compliance director. We have worked with residents at Smith houses, at Red Hook houses to help oversee some of the Sandy work and some of the environmental components of it to ensure that there is air monitoring and soil management protocols that ensure that the work is done appropriately. When you're doing construction in New York City, you have to be careful of sensitive receptors such as residential buildings, and this work is, as you know, right up against the residential buildings, so we want to make sure it's done safely. But we know that we have a lot of trust building to build back here, a lot of credibility to build back here, and that's what we hope to really do over the next 4 months. But we got a hard road ahead of us.
And to the extent that you have specific questions about your developments or the developments that are within your district, I'm happy to coordinate with your staff to come to your developments, hear what the issues are, and work together.
Thank you. And I second the call that Councilmember Barron had. We should fire Greg Russ. He got to go. Thank you.
Public Advocate, and then Councilmember Sanchez. I'm sorry we didn't mention you earlier, Councilmember Sanchez, but the Public Advocate and then Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and both chairs for this hearing. One, I acknowledge that people were on the ground the whole time, so I do appreciate that. But I want to make sure I heard clearly, because it did sound like there was at least admission that this whole incident was poorly managed. Is that accurate?
Well, I think there were some missteps, absolutely. And right now, we are, an investigation is being undertaken by our compliance department in conjunction with the federal monitor.
I got to do it quickly because of my time, but
oh, I'm so
so
sorry.
it's okay. But
Yeah.
you missteps, I'm going to phrase it as poorly managed. I just wanted to be clear that those poorly managed decisions were not related to funding. Those missteps you spoke of, were they related to funding?
No, they were not.
Okay, so they were just issues of mismanagement. Also, who made the decision for Greg Russ not to be here?
Mr. Russ made the decision not to be here.
That's disgusting. I just have to say it's disgusting that he is not here, and there's a disrespect to this whole situation. I mean, I add to the list that he needs to go, but I am clear, having been through 3 folks who head NYCHA, that just having one person rotate is not the only solution that is needed. So I did want to ask, it seemed like it took roughly 12 to 16 days for the first test results to come. Later on, we were getting the test results much quicker. Why was the decision made not to rush the test earlier, and who made that decision?
Do you want to talk about just testing generally?
I'll start.
So yes, the first samples were taken on August 13th, and we continued to follow up with the lab multiple times each week until finally on August 29th, we got the first results.
Why was the decision not made? Was there a rush put on it? The same rush that was put on later on, a couple weeks later?
The same rush was not put on it. We didn't have any reason to expect the results that we got, and we had been following up with the vendor.
Whose decision was it not to make a rush on those tests trying to find out what was wrong with the water?
I did not ask for it to be rushed any further than following up multiple times during the week, asking for the results.
So you the one who made the decision to rush it later?
Yes, once we got the first, we asked for the results to be expedited.
I would suggest that if there's questions about water and you're testing for something, that we should probably rush it, because then we might not have had those weeks of people waiting, thinking that they had arsenic in the water, particularly later on. I also wanted to know what we had a tough time making, getting NYCHA to have meetings with the tenants throughout this whole process. Finally, the tenants had their own meeting that NYCHA came to. Whose decision was it that NYCHA would not come to any meetings throughout that whole process?
I don't think NYCHA made the decision to not come to any meetings.
Sorry, NYCHA absolutely made a decision not to hold any meetings, and they weren't coming to any meetings that people were saying they wanted to have. That I was on the ground when that was happening.
We had NYCHA staff on site at Reese answering questions from
the tenants were asking for a meeting, the same type of meeting that happened that Friday where Greg Russ and everybody was there. NYCHA, I heard they called the meeting. I don't know if they did or didn't. Then they canceled it. Then they decided they wanted to wait until they had more information. So who made the decision that there would not be meetings during that time period?
I think we were waiting for information regarding the test results, and we wanted to make sure that we had information to provide.
Who made that decision?
I would assume Greg Russ, as the chair and CEO, made that decision.
Okay.
But I can tell you that going forward, as we've previously discussed, we've already had at least 3 meetings, one on site at Reese, one at 90 Church Street, and actually, and another one on site at Reese Houses with the Resident Association, and we have committed to smaller meetings with the residents to sit and listen to their questions and answer the questions, as well as go through all of the test results.
Thank you. And just so I'm clear about the uncertified lab, just so I'm clear, you're saying that the chosen vendor you had authority over was Logitech, and they chose the vendor?
Liquitech is the vendor that we have a
Liquitech.
contract with, and it requires them to follow all federal, state, and local rules, and they chose the vendor that was not certified.
I think Logitech is from the 40-year-old virgin, so I apologize. Thank you for the time period. I just wanted to say that one of the problems is, even if this had never happened, there'd still be a lot of tenants dealing with a lot of issues in terms of water, heat and hot water, electricity, and that's what one of the major problems is. So this aside, we had problems of trust and issues. This made it that much more worse, and that's a big problem that is not necessarily just a funding issue, and I want to make that clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, and then Councilmember Farias.
Thank you so much, chairs. Good afternoon. So first, I just want to express my apologies to the tenants who had to live with this insecurity of not knowing whether they drank water that was poisoned, whether they gave water to their child that may have been compromised. That is just something that you never want to live through as a parent. So thank you for all of your clarifications so far. My question is to the vein of Councilmember Marte. For tenants in NYCHA writ large, what do we say to them? How often is their water being tested? What conditions does NYCHA consider emergency conditions? If you hear this kind of complaint, NYCHA, DOHMH, DEP is going to take immediate actions. How do those other tenants, how can we assure them and have them feel secure? Because this timeline of August 4th, the initial complaints, to August 13th, the initial test, to September 2nd, it becoming public, just seems like a very long time. So how often is NYCHA checking, and what are the conditions that are emergency responses?
Thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, for that question. NYCHA conducts annual testing and cleaning of all of our roof tanks for standard bacterial contamination. All of those results are submitted to DOHMH, and DOHMH posts them on their website. So in addition to the annual roof tank cleaning, as I've mentioned before, if residents have complaints about water in their apartment, we send a maintenance worker to investigate, and then possibly a plumber. At this point, we don't have a threshold for number of complaints that trigger additional testing. However, that's a protocol and a process that we're looking to strengthen as we go through this. And there is an ongoing investigation. We are looking for recommendations and suggestions on how to set that threshold appropriately across our portfolio. The additional testing that we did here was because there was a significant amount, and without a threshold in place, we still decided it made sense here to order additional testing for the safety of our residents.
Thank you. And how long does it take for a maintenance worker to go up to the apartment and investigate? And then what is the timeline to, if a plumber is warranted, for a plumber to go in?
It obviously ranges based on issues at the development at that time and staffing level at the time. But typically we are able to have a maintenance worker respond to a complaint around 3 days, sometimes 2 days.
Thank you. Thank you, chairs. I was listening to the hearing in the parking lot while breastfeeding the baby, so I just want to thank you, chairs, for allowing me to ask my questions.
Councilmember Farias and then Councilmember Krishnan.
Thank you so much, chairs. Good afternoon. Thank you to all the residents who showed up today. Really, a lot of my questions have been answered, but I wanted to express this. I'm a Bronx member who doesn't sit on any of these committees and decided to come today because though I didn't, this didn't impact my district, we had, in my community, we had cases of Legionnaires disease throughout one of our NYCHA campuses. And the testing, everything similar to this, other than not having a positive case, I ended up having a positive case and findings. But the testing takes too long. There's no protocol. NYCHA fails continuously to show up for the residents with the right equipment or the right necessary items. I was surprised, unfortunately, here to hear you folks say that you had language access and you were, ready to respond, whatever the timeline was, but because it was such an alarming case, for my Legionnaires disease case on my NYCHA campus at Classen Point Houses, the response was, we're waiting to test May 5th. We didn't find out it was positive until about June 30th, which is a full 2 months. And we had people that were not given water, were told to shower out of a bucket because they couldn't use their shower head, or not to shower at all. There was no bilingual information. Really for me, what it comes down to is, there's a lot of embarrassment around timelines and response and making language access available. My office had to step in for NYCHA to make sure we sent out a notification letter in English and Spanish. I found through quick Google and some plumbing calls that we can do a hose attachment in our shower heads to make sure steam doesn't come out, which is how you actually catch Legionella. And I asked NYCHA to purchase that equipment, and then I went door to door with the superintendent to make sure that people were opening, because the people they sent weren't speaking the language for people to understand how urgent the need was to change their shower head so we wouldn't have more positive cases. And so even hearing this horrifying experience for these residents, and I guess in the end, thankfully saying there wasn't actually anything to be worried about, even though the fear and the anxiety, and as was stated prior, the continued disappointment and lack of trust and apathy toward government working for people, and that's what we're supposed to be here for, has now been exasperated by another example. I'm really interested to know, how are we working at NYCHA to ensure that there are streamlined processes and there are rules and there are accountability measures put in place in a hierarchical way, other than us depending on this might not be something, so let's just wait 2 weeks to get the result back. What are we doing right now to ensure that the agency itself is equipping itself not only with translation services and the proper equipment, but also the streamlined hierarchical processes and procedures to ensure that this doesn't continue? And I know you're going to answer. And I say this because when I found out with a quick hose equipment that was $4.95 on Amazon, and I'm sure we got for cheaper because it was bought by wholesale, that was something that was like, oh yeah, we totally could buy this, and we should already be doing this. but it's not actual protocol to happen for us. And we get cases of Legionnaires disease, hundreds of cases a year throughout our NYCHAs.
Thank you so much, Council Member, for that feedback, particularly about language access. I was not aware of those issues, so I will be raising that with my team right away. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Overall, we are evaluating our existing protocols as part of this ongoing investigation, and we're happy to work with your office and the entire City Council on suggestions of how to improve these processes to make more stringent protocols in place when we have water quality issues.
That's great, thank you. I will say the Bronx team, or at least the team that responded to Classen Point houses, was ready for me to get my hands dirty and like get involved, and they were open and willing to allow me to, but I shouldn't have had to take time away from my team to do a bilingual letter out, to do it in a timely manner. That should have came straight from your offices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kirschner?
Thank you so much, Chair Brewer and Chair Aviles, for holding today's hearing. I have two questions. My first point I just want to make is that it is shocking, yet also not shocking, that we're in this position with NYCHA. Before this job, I've been a tenant lawyer for many years, representing NYCHA tenant associations in litigation against you all for repairs, even before this, basic, for years. Mold, lead paint, rats, roaches. I mean, the fact that now we're talking about arsenic in water is so disturbing. And anyone to think about their children, their parents being exposed or potentially exposed, however you want to classify it, to arsenic is just utterly shocking to me that we're even in this position. And so I just have two questions. One is I saw in the testimony a couple points that the water, as I understand it, the water was tested 2 times by this lab company, and both times they detected arsenic. And whatever the explanation is as to it was in the range of the confidence interval or it wasn't, the point is there were 2 positive tests that came back, and then they retracted later and claimed there was a false positive. So I'd just like to understand exactly how that worked. 2 positive, not just 1, but 2 positive tests, and then a retraction later. What happened in that time period in between?
So when we saw the lab results came in, when I first looked at them on September 1st, there were oddities with the way that it was reported. The reporting limit they were using was higher than the federal standard, which did not make any sense from an environmental practitioner's perspective. When I sent the results to DEP, they immediately raised similar issues, and also the fact that this laboratory was not certified in New York State. We then raised questions with the vendor Liquitech, which they then transmitted to the laboratory about where the backup documentation was related to the samples, why they were reporting them in such an odd fashion. That triggered them to conduct an internal audit. The laboratory conducted an internal audit of their samples, and they basically screwed up the process. They basically did not run the samples appropriately. They didn't do the dilution appropriately, and there was contamination of the samples, and they've retracted them, which I thought was also shocking. But it shows that this lab, we should not be using out-of-state laboratories to analyze drinking water. They simply did not run this test at all appropriately, full stop. So that is what happened. I think we were all surprised that they retracted it so quickly, but we had concerns from day one about the quality of these results. And they basically borne out to be true. But the actions that we took were because, as you said, we had the 2 confirmed results. We didn't want to hash it out with the laboratory and let the residents continue to drink the water while we fought out a technical battle with this laboratory. Instead, what we wanted to do is issue the advisory and then take additional samples, extensive samples, over 140. The original were only at 5 locations. We sampled 140 locations, including the drinking water tanks, the points of entry, every apartments in every single building, the community centers, and at the same time raise questions about the laboratory. So that is why that's why we acted in the way that we did in response to that. But we were suspicious of the lab results to begin with. Also, huge context point, there's never been arsenic in New York City water. So this was a really remarkable, unique, bizarre finding. And they, just want to note, they had sampled the point of entry, which is DEP water, coming into the system. So that was even more of an anomaly that shocked DEP, because they don't find arsenic ever in their water. So I know that's a long answer to your question, but they basically screwed up the process. They've documented how they've screwed up the process. They put it on their own letterhead and had it signed by their executives. They've retracted the results. And now what we need to do to build back the confidence that they've destroyed by improperly running the samples is continue to sample, to continue to show the community, who I understand does not trust us. And we need to now show with science and meetings and being able to show them that there is no arsenic in the water.
I mean, it's just, and thank you for that answer too, but it is the lack of quality control that has to get to the point with NYCHA that there are false positive tests for arsenic before NYCHA realized it's working with a vendor whose standards are so low that they generate these positives is really disturbing. And it just shows the way in which NYCHA, I think, is really failing its tenants on multiple levels. If the chair's allowed, I have one more question, if that's okay.
Could I ask?
Like a clarification, if I may. Mr. Green, I just want to be sure I'm hearing you correctly. Were you the person that reviewed the 829 results and identified deficiencies in the reporting?
No, I did not. Well, I reviewed those results ultimately, but I did not become involved until September 1st.
Who reviewed those initial results of 829?
The original results from 829 were provided to NYCHA's Technical Services Department that oversees the water unit right now.
And how many individuals were involved in that specific review?
About 2.
And what's the next step? When that department found those results, where did they go next?
They shared those results with NYCHA executives and suggested, as did the lab suggest, to rerun the tests, as it was, again, just one sample, and it was a preliminary estimated value. And so the idea was that we go back the next day and conduct additional samples and additional testing to see whether, in fact, this is a false positive or not.
Are those individuals qualified to review these tests? Could they not have identified a deficiency in what the result was?
One of those individuals is an industrial hygienist and is used to reviewing water quality tests.
Mr. Green noted that when he saw the results, it was clear that there were deficiencies in the testing process.
Do you want to?
There were oddities in the way that they were reporting the values. I thought one of the most notable one was the standard is 10 parts per billion, yet their reporting limit was 12.5 parts per billion. So from an environmental perspective, you typically don't set your reporting limit above the contaminant level, because that would mean if the sample came in like at 11, it would be a non-detect. So it didn't make sense in the way that they were reporting the information, which was one of the things that I had that was scratching my head when I first saw them. And we shared them with DEP and DOHMH, who also had similar concerns, also given, again, because they had taken a sample. The original one at Building 11 was at the point of entry, so that would be DEP water. And again, DEP had never received an arsenic result before. One point I do want to make about quality assurance, I 100% agree with you. I oversee the lead paint department. We have a staff of over 30 staff members that review technical reports for lead-based paint inspections, of which we've conducted over 130,000 lead-based paint inspections over the past 3.5 years. So without that quality control, the data, there's often mistakes made in a testing process. These companies that do the testing are not infallible. They make mistakes. They miss certain steps. They don't collect it appropriately. And that's why quality assurance, when you get environmental testing, is a critical step. It annoys everybody because it delays the results, but it is an important step from a technical perspective to make sure that you're dealing with good data.
Mr. Green, if you would have received those original test results, would you have went back to the same company to redo those results, or would you have chosen an alternative approach?
I would have used an ELAB certified laboratory because there's local laboratories that we work with in New York City region that that can analyze samples faster. You don't have to deal with mailing the samples. There's better quality control. If you watch us collect the samples, which we're happy to show anybody how we collect the samples tomorrow, we put them on ice. We have to transport them immediately to a laboratory, especially when you do bacteriological sampling. The hold time is incredibly important. So we wanted to make sure that, that we have good quality samples.
So you would have went to a different vendor as opposed to the same one? In short, yes.
Like, I don't know what I would have done, because, but I would have used probably a different laboratory, yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Krishnan, apologies.
No, don't worry. Thank you, Chair. I also just want to register, too, that on a very human level, I am deeply disturbed, like my colleagues, that Gregory Russ is not here today to testify. And it shows an utter disrespect for tenants of NYCHA, for their health and their well-being and what they've been through, that he couldn't appear to testify today. But my question, and following up on all of this and the public advocate's point as well, is moving forward from here, what is the time delay in getting the results for the tests for next? So the testing happening this weekend. What is the turnaround for the results on those tests from this weekend?
So we should have them in by like the middle of next week. Typically, it takes about 18 to 24 hours to run the metal sample, and the bacteriological sample actually takes a full 48 hours because they actually have to plant the sample to allow them to count the bacteria as part of that criteria. So there's different timing depending on like the samples, but I expect that we'll hopefully have them back by like Tuesday. We'll review the results, and then I would like to have them posted midweek. So that is the goal. We will prioritize the samples. Definitely in the course of the emergency that we had a lab open on Labor Day weekend, which was kind of unprecedented. They had to bring in their staff too. They weren't going to be open on. To my knowledge, I don't think they were on the Labor Day weekend. I could be wrong about that, but they basically had to bring in. They had to do that as emergency. So, but we'll definitely have the results next week, and then we'll post them on the website. We'll speak about them with the TA, and that's the kind of cadence that we're going to hopefully get into here going forward.
I would just urge that NYCHA use all speed, that if it's 48 hours, in 48 hours those tests happen, because every day that goes by where tenants don't know the water they're drinking, waiting on test results to come in, especially after all that's happened, is not acceptable. So however quickly NYCHA can do this, it needs to do it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're still talking or trying to figure out protocol and also history and why things were done when they were. So I want to thank you because you did respond to the questions that we asked, and you wrote us a very detailed letter, and I appreciate it. And there were, between May 2022 and the September 3rd, there were 93 complaints according to your Maximo system, which I guess I call the CCC system. And that doesn't, some residents do call 311. They get tired of dealing with CCC, and they call 311. So what we have here is a 93. So it looks like, in terms of weekly listings, May 29th to June 4th, it was 1 complaint. And then it was 4, June 12th to June 18th, and then 10, June 3rd to June 9th. July 3rd to July 9th, I'm sorry. July 10th to the 16th, there were 4. July 17th to the 23rd, there were 10. July 24th to July 30th, there were 6. And then July 31 to August 6th, there were 21. And then it goes on increasingly in August, as you have indicated. So I guess my question is, protocol, we don't know what it is. Is it 1? Is it 4? It seems like 10, July 3rd to July 9th, might have been a situation where somebody might have said, what's going on here? So did anybody pick up on that? Because I think it had something to do with this pump failing, which you know more about than I do. Nobody noticed it, and I guess it drained, and then maybe tenants were drinking whatever, I call them dregs, I don't know what to call them, and maybe that's what clouded the water. But it seems to me, I know we started talking in August, but it seems to me in July, even earlier, there were issues. Is this based on this lack of protocol?
Thank you, Councilmember. The complaints did increase throughout July. The water tanks were originally cleaned in June as part of the annual roof tank cleaning process, and the water was tested at the beginning of July and shown to be potable. However, the cloudy water complaints continued. We do now think that that house pump was in roof tank in building 11 was the source of the cloudy water complaints. There are, as we've kind of talked about a little bit already so far, there are 19 buildings at Reese Houses.
Right.
7 of those are supplied directly by DEP water mains. However, there are 2 roof tanks, one at Building 11 and one at Building 8.
Correct.
Upon further review, it seems that most of the complaints that you're seeing there in your letter are in buildings associated with the roof tank from Building 11. And there are 2 pumps in the roof that serve the roof tank. Typically, these pumps are not intended to operate simultaneously. They operate interchangeably. But the idea is that they provide continuous feed of water, and in case one fails, the other can take over. However, when one fails and there is a high demand, it can cause problems with the other one, and that problems are the aeration and pressure in the water. So our staff discovered that the pump wasn't functioning properly on July 28th. On July 28th, when that was discovered, they removed a part of the pump and sent it out to a vendor to be repaired right away. It was then returned to service on August 15th. And after August 15th, you'll see the water complaints start to decrease again. And that is why we believe the house pump was the cause of the cloudy water condition.
Okay, and were residents apprised of all of this? Were they brought up to date with these were the issues?
No, typically residents are not informed about, building maintenance systems like that, like a house pump.
Even when their water is cloudy and they don't know why?
In this case, we could have better explained the situation of the cloudy water, but again, it was not identified until July 28th that the house pump was likely the cause.
Okay, I mean, it seems to me, again, back to your protocols, not good. Communication, not good. I'd like to know why my water was cloudy even before arsenic was not really there, but no communication. And then I think there are, just as we're trying to think future, there are water tanks across, portfolio. I know certainly I have them on the west side. I certainly know they're in Harlem. I've been through them with Legionnaire's disease also. Where are the inspection reports kept? For all of these water tanks. You just described that, the tenants didn't know because there's no protocol, but hopefully there will be in the future. Where are the inspection reports kept on these water tanks?
Sure.
Annual, you said, water tank
Correct.
review?
We have 209 roof tanks across 141 developments.
209, you said?
209 across 141 developments. They are all cleaned and tested annually, and those results are supplied to DOH-MH and posted on the DOH-MH website.
Okay, so if I went to the website at DOH, I would find them, but not at NYCHA, or what are you telling me?
That's correct. I can double check, but they may also be maintained in the property management office.
Okay, because I don't know that anybody would know to go to DOH, so again, protocols. That would be another, in my opinion, given the heightened sensitivity of water, that it would be part of an annual discussion with the residents in the different developments to know that it was cleaned, it was safe, it wasn't safe, blah, blah, blah. Something different, right? Okay, because that's really challenging, I have to tell you. The other thing I want to ask is, and I know nothing about water pumps, but I do have a lot of friends who used to work for NYCHA, as Brian knows. And they call me with everything. So the other question I have is regarding, I'm sorry. Well, there's another pump that is used. It's in addition to the one that I just described. And it is I think this is more of a DEP. It's a roof tank. It's the backflow prevention device. And so is that checked every year? Where is that information? And how would that have impacted, if at all, this situation? Thank you, Vinny.
Chair Brewer, thank you for the question.
Yes.
And the backflow preventer is not actually a pump, but it's just a device that prevents water from a building system from backing up into the city's water mains.
Okay.
And so there's a program for maintenance and inspection.
And would that have had any impact on this situation if it was, again, revealed and transparent?
Very likely not, and again, as you heard from NYCHA Chair Brewer, the pumping system itself, and DEP has experienced this, in over the years in other buildings, where pumps used for bringing water from street level up to roof tanks, when they do have problems, they can entrain air, and the air bubbles get in the water and cause cloudiness.
Okay, and those are checked twice a year or once a year? How often are they supposed to be checked? These particular backflow devices?
Yeah, I'll get back to you on those,
Okay.
but we have a permitting and inspection.
I think that according to local law 58 of 2019, they're supposed to be checked on a regular basis.
I think it's annually, yeah, but we'll
Okay, but again, people need this kind of information to know what is or not possible. The other question I have is hold on one second, just one more question. Right here. The $200, which I know will be worked out with the residents, does that seem like it's enough funding for what they have experienced? Has this ever been done before? How do you work out whatever the money will be?
The $200 figure was requested to NYCHA by local elected officials, and we felt that was reasonable.
Okay, and when will that be allocated?
We are working right now to have that allocated in the next 2 weeks, as promised to the Resident Association during a meeting last week.
Okay. And the other question we wanted to know just quickly was how much did you pay Liquid Tech? And are they going to be reimbursing you for their mistakes?
We have not paid and will not pay Liquid Tech for the work performed here at Reese Houses.
You have not paid them anything?
We have not paid them anything, and we do not intend to pay them anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the moment of the discovery of the first test result on 8/29. Can you walk me through, so 2 people in which department?
Our Technical Services Department within Operations.
Received the results on 8/29. They then reported those results to whom and when?
They reported those results to various members of the Operations Department later that afternoon, I think approximately, around 4 or 5 o'clock.
Who is various adults?
So it was various members of the operations team.
You're gonna learn why I want to understand who specifically, and what happened next?
Based on that recommendation seemed appropriate for them to proceed with the resampling and the retesting.
So someone from this operations, various individuals in this operation department, who authorized a next set of testing using the same company?
At that time, we hadn't really understood the implications of the lab, and as Mr. Green said, in retrospect, we wish we had used a different laboratory for the second round of testing.
Right, but someone authorized retesting using the same exact laboratory. Who authorized that testing?
We agreed with the recommendation to proceed with the resampling.
So we don't know.
It was agreed that we would proceed. All the operations executives, including myself on the email, agreed we should proceed with that retest.
So every operations executive at NYCHA said, yes, let's use the same company to do these results.
Again, we were not aware of the lab at that point. That distinction of the lab came out later as we began to investigate these results.
When was the CEO and chair informed of these results?
I believe they were informed upon the retesting on when we got the retesting results on September 1st.
So the chair on 8/29 was not aware?
No, I do not believe they were aware at that time.
So in terms of DEP, I mean, is a 6-day I'd love your expertise here. Is a 16-day turnaround for water testing standard, unusual?
Chair, it depends. If you're just saying, I want my water tested, send it to a lab, it could take a week, 2 weeks. If you need a rush, as you heard from NYCHA, arsenic tests can be turned around in 24 hours, bacterial tests can be turned around in 48 hours. So if you really want it done quick, it can be done. But typically, if you don't tell the lab there's a rush, they may take that amount of time.
Can NYCHA confirm whether they asked for results to be rushed from the lab? If clearly this was on the heels of multiple complaints, ongoing complaints, they were compelled to ask Liquitech to test for arsenic.
We had followed up multiple times over the next few weeks requesting results, including on August 25th, when we were getting somewhat impatient for the results ourselves. We asked for partial results if they had that even available. And so we had been following up, but no, we did not request explicitly for them to be expedited.
So no explicit request for rush results, but following up in the interim, and following up specifically with Liquitech?
Yes.
And I couldn't discern it from the contract, but is Liquitech's contract at all cover testing of arsenic?
It is not specific to arsenic, it just covers water sampling.
Would there be reason to need a specific arsenic testing entity or agreement?
Again, we weren't seeking arsenic specifically. We ordered a broad spectrum of testing to be performed in order to understand what was causing the cloudy water. This was on August 12th, and at that time, I was not informed about the water pump.
Okay, because one of the challenges that certainly we're having is that we understand that Liquitech was brought in actually to do these ionization systems, and some water testing, bacterial water testing, not arsenic. So it's very difficult to understand how you would have an entity to conduct this kind of testing and why they were asked in the first place to do it. So why did you decide to test for arsenic?
Again, it wasn't arsenic specifically.
Okay.
It was a broad spectrum, and that includes a wide range of analytes and parameters.
Got it. So in terms of, walk me through September 2nd. So once the 829 results were found, it went to the technical, the operations team said, fine, rehire this entity to do a second round of results. A second round of results came in 24 hours a day later. Again, confirming 4 out of the 5 tests of finding. Who received that result?
So those results, again, were sent to operations, and when we got the second results for arsenic, which again was an unprecedented result to see, given that we knew that arsenic is not detectable in New York City water, at that point we brought in Dan Green, and understanding that we would need help from DOH, MH, and DEP to understand and analyze what we had in front of us. We asked Dan Green for help, as he has some of that background and the contacts at DEP and DOH, MH. And he coordinated those conversations, so I will ask him to speak to what happened next.
And when exactly was the mayor informed of the test results?
City Hall was informed on Friday.
At what time?
And Friday afternoon, and we have been advised that the mayor was told shortly thereafter.
Friday afternoon at what time?
I don't have a specific time, but I can.
Was
get
he
it.
informed
around
by
2 o'clock.
email, by telephone, by?
Oh, okay. Email, telephone? We emailed the chief housing officer, and we were told that she alerted the mayor shortly thereafter.
So the mayor was informed Friday afternoon, but showed up at 10 o'clock at night to distribute water. What transpired in the in-between time? What was he informed of?
none of us were involved in the conversation directly with the mayor, so we can't speak to exactly what information he was provided.
Who provided that information? Who was in communication with the mayor?
I'm not sure who exactly spoke to the mayor. As I said, we delivered the information to the chief housing officer.
Okay, we would like to see the chain of communications, if that can be provided, and I'm sure the DOI and the monitor will be looking into that. Of course, this begs the question, if the mayor knew in the afternoon and showed up at 10, and then I think the public notice went out at 11 p.m. Friday night?
Our robocalls to residents went out approximately 9 o'clock. We were on site as of 7:30, flyering the building and talking to residents at that time.
That is very much in contradiction to resident reporting, I will say. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to understand, you're saying that protocol for the future will be determined, or benchmarks for the future will be determined. What's your timing for that? God forbid this happens somewhere else, then there's no protocol. So what are you thinking about in terms of, I know you asked for our input, that's fine. I am no building manager. But what is your timing for a protocol, and how are we going to know that there is a protocol when there is one?
Is this in regards to cloudy water complaints and additional testing? So we are waiting for the results of the investigation in order to make any final protocol changes.
And when do you think the final results from the monitor, I guess, and the IG, when will they be available?
I can't speak to their timing.
Okay, but it does seem to me that in addition to their input, you should be doing your own notion of what a protocol and benchmark look like.
Absolutely, we are starting to have those conversations and putting together internal recommendations. We just don't want to put anything in place until we have their recommendations, so we can take them into account as well into the final policy.
So is it just water that doesn't have a protocol? Does lead have a protocol? Does pest have a protocol? Does et cetera?
Yes. Lead definitely has a protocol. We wrote it. It has a very lengthy protocol that we developed over the course of 3 years with HUD input, the monitor input. Pest also has a procedure manual. Yes.
All right, so it's just water that doesn't have a protocol? I'm trying to understand, because to me, this is a little surprising.
Right now, water does not have a protocol.
Okay. And that's the only issue that doesn't have a protocol? I mean, that would include Legionnaire's disease and water tanks and so on?
I mean, for Legionella cases, we follow DOHMH protocols that they place on us as part of that process.
Okay. So it's just water right now?
As far as we know, yes.
Yeah. So I want to go back to September 2nd. I just want to make sure I'm clear here. So on September 2nd, actually, I first learned about this incident on the news. Can you tell me who specifically was informed of this situation on September 2nd?
Sure. On September 2nd, DOHMH, DEP, and NYCHA were concluding discussions about what these results meant and what operational changes we need to make, including the water restrictions. Once that decision was made to implement the water restrictions, DOHMH also had guidance for us as far as the flushing of all the apartments across Reese that occurred on Saturday in order to clean out the water before we conducted a new round of testing. So after we made those decisions and had information to share with residents, we created a communications plan that again included the flyers and the robocalls. We reached out to the Resident Association President and the Resident Association Board, as well as the President of the Citywide Council of Presidents. We started reaching out to all elected officials. And then again, we were on site with water around 7:30. We implemented our emergency protocols to have water distribution 24/7 at the site until the water restriction was lifted.
Okay, I would like for the record a more specific, itemized detailing of exactly the chain of communication from the moment of 8/29, or actually, yeah, from the first results that were received, where that communication led and at what times, and who exactly. Because what we're seeing is, obviously it's a big agency and this is a big issue, multiple multiple gaps and with no clarity around who is responsible for making what decisions. The residents want accountability. They want to understand who is making the decision. Groups and NYCHA is not making a decision. People are making decisions throughout this process. So, bear with me. The time frame is very murky. The afternoon, the night, a group, I think the residents deserve a full accounting, a actual chronology of who was communicated with when. The mayor went on record saying he wasn't informed until after he did the appearance to distribute water Friday night. And yet here we are understanding that he was actually informed Friday afternoon. So I just need you all to understand why we are harping on who was informed what, when, and who made the decisions.
I completely understand your questions and the need for that information. There is an ongoing investigation also seeking all of those questions, so I will defer to the investigation to provide that information. That full report will be provided when it's completed.
I just want to switch very quickly to Legionella, and it was mentioned by my colleagues. The finding, this entire situation, right, begs to question all the testing, all the residents across NYCHA who experience brown water on quite frequent basis, among other things. So all NYCHA residents are wondering, is this gonna poison me or my children? Is this poisoning my parents? So it really does beg to question who holds the contracts. Are the water testing contracts held by multiple vendors? Or is it just Liquitech? Who's responsible for testing the water?
So the annual roof tank cleaning and testing is a different vendor. It's called American Tank and Pipe, or Pipe and Tank, yeah, American Pipe and Tank. They are the annual roof tank cleaning vendor and testing. They also use an ELAP certified lab that they choose to do that water sampling. Liquitech is right now the Legionella vendor, but we are working expeditiously to have an emergency contract in place to replace them.
So as of right now, Liquitech remains a current vendor for the New
Yes.
York City Housing Authority. And is the New York City Housing Authority going to seek, is there a potential for a clawback and obtain money for damages?
We are exploring our legal options against both Liquitech and EMT, the lab.
In terms of Legionella, I mean, we've obviously had cases around the city, and certainly our colleague from the Bronx mentioned, thankfully, her own ingenuity at finding solutions for our city and for her residents. Is it, I guess I just want to say I completely agree with my colleague, Chair Brewer, around making results available in places that are accessible to residents, but not only making them available because no one would know to go to DOHMH, but they would also probably not understand the scientificalese that these results come in. So it's important that these documents are both accessible in language and accessible to residents. And additionally, while we have data, right? NYCHA has an abundance of data on its website, and that has come with years of improvement. But the data is actually not usable to the common person, particularly with contracts. You have a list that you can't download. You can't actually do any analysis on all this data if you wanted to. So I would recommend that NYCHA, and this is, I will be gracious and say this is not a problem for NYCHA alone. This is certainly a government problem. But given the history and the constant demands for transparency and this building back of trust, you need data that is downloadable, that people can do analysis with to make sure, and to be a second a second view on this data. So I would encourage whatever systems you're trying to do to try to make this as user-friendly. And I know there's a technical term for it because I'm not a data geek. I don't exactly know what it is, but it is not usable in its current form, and it's very difficult to find.
I'm just thinking it would even be great at every tenant meeting of resident associations coming up to give them whatever is in the management office in paper, in boxes, or on the shelf, or whatever it is, to the resident, whatever the last annual report was, if there is a water tank. That would be something that would show across the all of NYCHA that you're serious about transparency and sharing. I have a feeling that nobody's looked at these, nobody even knows that these reports exist. That would be with a eye toward we're changing our protocols and benchmarks. Thank you. And if you could let us know if you'll do that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I guess in terms of the contracting process, when will we expect to hear a determination on what exactly is going to happen with the Liquitech contract?
We are working right now to review our options on an emergency on a new emergency procurement to replace them. I am hoping to have a new vendor in place sometime in early November.
And what concrete changes can be made in the contracting process? We've identified a couple of deficiencies. What concrete changes are you looking to make?
I think first and foremost that we specify the New York State ELAP certification. We also we could put in that they present the lab to us for approval prior to doing any sampling and testing. And we're happy to take any other suggestions you may have.
I have a slew, and I will tell you this issue of subcontracting and NYCHA having, it was a subcontract, we don't know, is a huge problem. That's come up in multiple contexts. You allow a contractor, and this is quite a large contract, right? This is a $4.8 million contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And we've worked with them, that's the annual contract?
That's the total contract value since 2019.
Got it, okay. I thought it was an annual. I was like, it's a big contract. Yeah, so I think there has to be some approval process that happens with subcontractors because it is a consistent problem throughout. Contractors are hiring other people who are doing shady stuff. Residents are fed up. They have nowhere to complain to. People are sent back to the contractors to complain. And it's a consistent circle on and on. So I think we'd like to close that loop once and for all and ensure that subcontractors have to be approved and they should be monitored. How many times has NYCHA actually assessed contracts? Like how many, let's say Liquitech. How many times throughout its tenure has NYCHA done an evaluation on Liquitech services?
I can't speak to the actual reviews performed on Liquitech. I do know that our procurement department, as you heard from our chief procurement officer earlier this week, has started a more formal process of regular vendor reviews, but I can't speak to the vendor review history on Liquitech, but I can get back to you on that.
Yes, because I think that's another aspect of this process that we really need to dig into, because vendor reviews, I will say, seems relatively ad hoc. There doesn't seem to be a clear protocol of reporting, of triggering of vendor reviews. I've heard residents complain about vendors, and yet they continue to get contracts. So there is some problem with vendors and how they are monitored and how they continue to get contracts through NYCHA in particular that we have to solve for. I still have more questions, but I understand we have, Councilmember Williams would like to.
Hello, I wasn't going to ask a question because my colleagues and chairs have been doing such a good job, but I just had a quick question about federal funds that were given to the Reese houses after Superstorm Sandy. So the resiliency upgrade is still underway, I believe, and so wanted to know how much of the funds were used to upgrade the plumbing.
We have our Senior Vice President, Joyce Cinderbrand, who can speak to that.
I'm sorry, before your response, you do need to be sworn in, so I'll just administer the oath. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before these committees, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
Yes.
Okay, you may proceed.
Yeah, the red light.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member. I'm Joyce Cinderbrand, Senior Vice President for Capital Programs, and previously I was the Vice President for the Recovery and Resilience Department at NYCHA. We administered that federal funding to repair and also add mitigation to the 35 developments most severely impacted by Superstorm Sandy. At Reese Houses, Reese 1 and 2 were actually broken into 2 different projects, but the scope of works were very similar. The focus of the disaster recovery funding was repairing damage that was caused by Superstorm Sandy, as well as mitigating impacts from future storms and storm surge and power outages. So the type of work you would see at that development includes structural reinforcement, flood proofing, raising critical infrastructure above the flood level, backup power generators, many of them were rooftop, and then you might see eventually grounds restoration, playground work. There was limited work on the domestic water system, but there was installation of backwater valves, and also there was some pump installation.
Okay, so to the point on the pump installation, so I think it's reported that the Reese Houses has 2 pumps that serve Building 11, one of which stopped functioning around July 15th, or perhaps even earlier. Is there a shelf life for the pumps? Are they insured?
I'm not sure
And then
yeah, I'd have to get back to you
allegations
about that.
of a busted pump until July 29th that didn't get fixed until August 15th. I guess the question is
To clarify, the pump she's talking about is different than the roof tank pump that we
yeah, I
referenced.
think
It's a
I'm
different
still
type of
talking
water
about
pump.
the plumbing pumps.
So for the roof tank pump.
The roof tank pump, and then, yes.
I will find out the useful life of a piece of equipment like that. I don't have that information handy, but I'm happy to find it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we want to thank this panel, but we hope you stay. We do have people who want to testify, so we're going to call them right now. We thank you. This is an ongoing discussion, it is not over, and we thank you, but please do not leave.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I understand that some of the witnesses who registered to testify did have to leave because of time, but I am still going to call the names of those who filled out a witness slip in the instance that you are still present. And we will also be calling the witnesses who have joined us via Zoom. When I call your name, if you're here in person, please come up to the witness panel. And if you are joining via Zoom, you will receive a prompt to unmute. Please accept the prompt and begin your testimony. And in the interest of time, we are limiting individuals to 3 minutes each. At this time, we will call up Javita Santiago, Danette Chavez, Albert Negron, and Karen Blondell. Are any of those individuals present? Okay, I'll call him again in a moment. Ms. Blondell, are you here via Zoom?
Yes.
Starting time.
Yes, I am. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, thank you, Councilmember Alexis Abeles and Councilmember Brewer for allowing me to testify today. I do have some engineering background, so I just want to bring up the fact that we really had a really hot summer with many days over 90 degrees. And as I'm hearing this testimony, I'm also hearing that, if there was a pump that was needed to bring water past the 6th floor in a taller building, that the use of that pump increases during hot weather. And so let's take that into consideration as we pound on the NYCHA team about what happened at Reese houses. I also heard immediately about the assumption of arsenic in the Reese houses, and um, my first inclination was that sounds bizarre. So even though I'm not an expert, I immediately thought that, we should.
You're muted. Just hold a moment.
Excuse me?
You were muted. You're good now.
Okay. That there is a transformational plan at NYCHA, and it's going to take more than just NYCHA. Like Councilmember Brewer said, it's going to take the resident associations learning this stuff and becoming a part of the team that helps educate residents about pumping and turbidity, which is discoloration in water. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of things to fear, but one thing we shouldn't fear is knowledge. And so when I hear people attacking Greg Russ, it sounds very personal, and it sounds like we mix in the fact that, he has a vision with the Preservation Trust with what happened at Reese, and those aren't the same things to me. And you need to allow tenants like me to hear all things, including the options that will be set forth for tenants to fix their buildings. This really speaks to years and years and years of having bad pipes, not just in Reese houses, but across the campuses, across the city. And we're going to have to make a choice. And our choice can't be just to kick everybody out who comes with a new idea. We have to be let out of this bill pen by our politicians too. And so I'm making that statement because I want to make sure
Time
that the
expired.
residents are able to understand the difference between RAD, the Preservation Trust, and waiting for a Build It Back comprehensive modernization. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just as a reminder to those who are present in person, if you haven't filled out a witness slip and are interested in testifying, please fill one out and hand it to the sergeants. We will now hear from Aisa Torres, followed by Sanford Rubenstein and Kevin McCall.
If your name is called, you can.
I'm almost.
Starting time.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As the chairperson of Manhattan South District Council of Presidents, I want to first thank the resident leadership of Reese for standing up and defending their residents, which we all took an oath when we become officers. As elected officers, we might not get paid, but we are elected officers of our developments. And in that respect, I speak on behalf of the 45 districts that we need to talk about the fact that part of the issue is the contractors that come into our developments don't follow the contracts. There is no follow-up. And ultimately, these are the kind of issues that happen. Arsenic is very high level on all our water sites that we have because of Sandy, because of 9/11, for whatever reasons. But these contractors do not follow the guidelines that need to be followed, covering the dirt. What happened in Reese, in my opinion, and no, I'm not an expert, but I know enough after dealing with this for 8 years in Alfred E. Smith, that none of the dirt was covered in the buildings with a water tank. So it is and can happen. And so I ask that the council begin to look at how these contracts are being done, how we, the resident leaders and the residents, can grade the contractors for what they do. There are several developments, and when I say several, across the board, so this definitely would probably affect every councilman that has public housing, that are complaining about the value of water and what the water is and what is going on. And so I have a clear picture of that we need to have every development tested, especially those that are dealing with sandy construction, because the contractors are not doing what they're supposed to protect the environment. And because of that, these are the results. Nobody cares that we're human. Nobody cares that we have children. Nobody cares that we have elderly people who have underlying conditions. And even if the water is negative, the stress of having to deal with what the residents and Reese had to deal with is unconscionable. And everybody should be accountable for this. You made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake.
Time expired.
Everyone in Reese and in public housing has been affected by this. I thank you. I thank the two chairs, and I thank all the council people who were present from the Lower East Side to say we're present and we stand beside the residents in public housing. Good evening.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you. I represent 172 residents of Reese Housing. And what they want me to tell you is, simply put, fear remains rampant among the residents. Fear of having gotten sick, if in fact the water was tainted. Fear of really getting sick. And testing is needed on site for people who are afraid of getting sick or having gotten sick to get tested if they want on site, blood testing, urine testing, to make sure that they didn't get sick. Now today, for the first time, I heard about a $200 payment being made to each of the residents, if I heard correctly. I'd like to get assurances from the New York City Housing Authority that that's going to prevent them from any legal remedies they have with regard to any action for damages for getting sick or fear of getting sick. If this is $200 being paid to them outright without requiring them to give up their rights, and I'd appreciate if any member of the council might address that issue with them when they come back. And I thank you for the opportunity on behalf of 171 tenants to speak with you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Reverend Kevin McCall, founder of the Crisis Action Center. First, I want to thank the City Council and all the council members for doing an extremely wonderful job for holding NYCHA accountable for their actions. As I sit here and listen, I heard about this issue on the news, and I heard about it because of different residents was calling. But when I heard when I heard about it, it was very disheartening because I thought I was in Mississippi. I thought I was in Flint. And I happened to look and it said it was right here in New York City. And it's appalling that NYCHA would sit here and the CEO doesn't come, doesn't say that there's trust issues, but you don't even, when you have trust issues with someone, you gain it back by doing something. When I have trust issues with someone, I gain it back by doing something. You still have relationships with the same company that did damage. That says a lot. No, someone needs to be held accountable, not only just losing their job, because anybody can lose a job and get another one, but it needs to be a criminal probe needs to happen because someone needs to be arrested for what has transpired. Somebody lied here. And only way that happens is when somebody is held accountable. NYCHA has failed the tenants. How in the world that you can look for arsenic in the water, but you can go to a tenant's apartment and you can see other repairs that needs to happen and you look beyond that? Do you really care about the black and the brown people that live in NYCHA? Do you really care that someone has to go up a flight of stairs because the elevator is constantly broke? Do you really care that when you go up in someone's apartment, that the apartment that you go inside to test them for the water, that you yourself have to take the stairs because the elevator is broke? Do you really care, NYCHA? I don't think so. Until NYCHA is held responsible and someone goes to jail, that's sending a message. That's what relates to trust, and that's what will negate to someone being held responsible for their actions. It's been so many changes in NYCHA. Everybody passing the buck to this one, that one. They don't know what's happening. Until someone goes to jail, that's when it's held responsible. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you. We will now call Albert Negron, Robert Sanderman, Kelly Trooper, and Bridget Jug.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for having us here today, the council and everyone aboard. My name is Mr. Albert Negron. I'm the Resident Association President of the Vladeck Houses. This is very concerning to all the Lower East Side residents. I have a tenant in my Vladeck Houses who tested for arsenic over 57% in her urine. She's going to give me some more information that I can reach out to, but I think that in the Housing Authority, with the contractors, that they allow a contractor to get millions of dollars for whatever job they're going to do, they should not be able to subcontract to anyone else. The contractor has the fulfillment for the whole contract. They sublease these contractors to other contractors, and they're not doing a good job. You see what happened with the situation we have right here today. Also, I think that the water testing should be not twice a week, it should be once a week for the Reese houses. Also, for the fact that there's no trust in that situation, what they're going through, and also the fact that, hey, bring the laboratory to the projects because you're taking the water to the labs and the labs are not working. You know, they need to be accountable, like the gentleman said. These are dealing with people's lives, not 5 lives, thousands of people's lives that live in this project. You know, I have family members in the Reese houses, we're like neighbor friends from Vladeck to Reese to Wall to Baruch to every project in the Lower East Side. I think it's a very serious situation, and I hope this thing can get resolved really soon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Hello, yes. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for holding this meeting. My name is Robert Sanderman. I'm a staff attorney at Queens Legal Services. I've been practicing there for 8 years. I'm a tenants' rights attorney, and I also do community economic development. So we're the largest legal service provider around the country. We represent tenants and residents in myriad of issues, foreclosure, education. Particularly, I do eviction defense work, and I represent NYCHA tenants in administrative proceedings, housing proceedings, federal court, and state Supreme Court. Unfortunately, my experience as an attorney working with NYCHA is not different from what we're dealing with today. Particularly, I'm working with a group in a building in Queens where they were without hot water since October 2021. They pled with NYCHA, they sent complaints, all that went ignored, and it wasn't until we filed litigation in court that the ball started to get moving, but to my surprise, it was at a glacial place. Those tenants have to suffer the indignity and the humanity of not having hot water, not having answers, and it's just being replicated over and over and over. And it's the benefit of having hearings and having the information shed like this in the public that really helps get things done. But those tenants and most tenants citywide suffer that neglect and disrespect where I personally witnessed misrepresentations of this is going to get fixed next week, and then the tenants kept hearing it over and over and over until they got disillusioned, where it was really hard for me to keep people engaged in the case. And again, that's not unique. There's a separate building where, as you already know from a lot of your constituents, a lot of people do not get the repairs that they need done at all, properly, or on time. There's been plenty of situations where NYCHA tried to address it and actually made it worse, and then again, delays in getting those repairs. And then that just relates back to what's happening now, where people just have the additional stress, the confusion that was described all day, What was really disheartening to me was having a tenant from Jacob Riis call me, and her only plea was that she just wanted answers. She wasn't saying like, file litigation, I need money. She said, I just want answers. And this was weeks after alleged testing happened. And then it was just very disheartening. So she asked me to come here on behalf of her and other residents today to speak to what was discussed earlier, that is well documented that a lot of NYCHA residents who are predominantly people of color suffer from environmental racism, lack of access to quality health care. These folks will come out of pocket to stay elsewhere. The fear that they have about the water has not been addressed. They need clear, specific answers because of the long-standing distrust that they have with NYCHA and also elected officials. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would say that your clients are fortunate.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we called Kelly Trooper and Bridget Juck, but if you are no longer in the chambers? Oh. And in addition, we will hear from Laura Lugo and Rebecca Perkins, if you're still. Oh. Yes. Oh, I see.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Perkins. I live at Jacob Riis. I've been living here for 8 years. I have 3 small children ranging in age 15, 13, and 8. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I don't trust NYCHA whatsoever. It's hard for me to believe them when they said that there's no arsenic in the water, and then they telling me, you know, don't trust it, then trust it, then don't trust it, then trust it. I don't know what to believe because as of yesterday, I got a call back from the kid's doctor and said that my 2 oldest children tested positive for arsenic. So they not telling me, they said that it's like an organic arsenic. I'm not too sure, but I'm still scared because I don't know what to expect later on down the line. I don't. I have a bad relationship with NYCHA. Besides the water incident, my housing repair, horrible. I have to reach out to city council members just to get repairs done, like an essential of having a bathroom sink. I went 6 months without having a proper working bathroom. My kids are still scared. I'm scared. And once again, we have no clear answers. And we just supposed to believe NYCHA because they say that it's clear and it's okay and it's safe. But you're saying this, but at the same time, you're also saying that you're gonna come back to test the water. What are you testing if there's nothing in the water? How can we believe y'all? This is not right. I live in housing. I don't know if y'all live in housing. And I don't have the luxury of actually leaving housing and not have to deal with this. So until you sit in my shoes and in the residents' shoes and to see what we go through, it's scary. And then y'all giving us cases of water, and then like, $200, what is that gonna do? I still buy bottles of water. I don't trust it. I don't think I will ever trust it. So I'm sick and I'm disgusted because I feel like we deserve better than what y'all giving us, period. A peace of mind is really hard to come by. And I don't have one.
We have a question for you. If it's okay, we have a question for you.
Okay.
Ms. Perkins, can you tell us when you discovered this information, how did you discover what was happening? And then when you were receiving water, what did you receive and what allotments?
Well, I found out the night of not by NYCHA. I happened to go downstairs around 8:30 at night to go to the store, and I seen a big commotion. And I walked over and I said, what's going on? They said, well, there's arsenic in the water. I said, arsenic, what is that? Don't drink it, don't cook with it, but you could shower with it and clean with it. I'm like, okay, well, what is arsenic? Google it. That's what the gentleman told me.
Was the gentleman a NYCHA staff person? Was it an elected official? Could you discern who they were?
He had on a NYCHA chain. And he just, I forgot his name, but he basically told me to Google it. And then he said, get some water. He said, get a case of water. I said, well, what is 12 bottles of water gonna do? I need, I have a large family upstairs, I need more water. And he's like, well, there's not enough to give everybody. I said, well, you got people over here with 4 cases of water. Can I get another one? He's like, no, you can't. Just come down tomorrow and get it. And then he just dismissed me. And then I told everybody on my building. I started, once I found out that the water was unsafe to drink and cook with, I ran upstairs to my building and started knocking on everybody's door on my floor. I live on the 13th floor. And I was like, I don't know if y'all know or not, but the water's contaminated. You can't drink it. It's arsenic in it. And they're like, what's arsenic? I'm like, I don't know. Google it. I just heard it was dangerous. That's what he told me.
Do you recall when you first saw signage in the buildings that said what was happening?
11 p.m. that night.
Okay. And in terms of receiving water after that initial moment, what was the distribution like? What were you allocated as a resident?
They said 2 cases per household.
So
first it was 1 case, and then I think 2 days later they upgraded to 2 cases.
And so 2 cases per day per
Yes,
household?
Per household.
Were you bathing with the water?
I was at first. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared to take a bath in the water. I was like, I ain't touching it.
Sure.
So I did like a bird bath, But then I'm grown, I can't do that. But my kids, they're younger, so I'm like, you guys can bathe with the water. I'm still gonna shake a chance.
I understand.
Yeah, it's scary, and your kids feel like they're gonna die because when you read arsenic, it's very scary and traumatizing.
I hear you. Did you request the testing to be done from NYCHA? Did anyone tell you about arsenic testing?
Nobody told me about it, but I would say we found out Friday. Saturday, they came to my apartment and they tested the water 1 time. And then they didn't go to everybody's apartment and do testing.
Right.
They just went to my apartment and they said they did it daily. No, they only did it 1 time. So.
Oops.
Councilmember Rivera had a question.
Yes.
I just want to say that you are right in saying how much water you need for your family. Just for context, I think it's estimated that the average person goes through 100 gallons per day. And besides the 2 DEP water stations that were set up, which we had to advocate for to remain in place, giving out, as per the testimony, 46,000 gallons of water in a week, even if you divide that by every household, is only 27 gallons. So just to do some math, we don't think there was enough outreach, engagement, or even supplies provided to the families. But I understand that this was an unprecedented situation. So Ms. Perkins, I just wanted to ask you, were you ever visited in your home to have your water tested? Were you ever reached out to any, specifically, did you get that robocall?
No.
Anything?
No, I would say that Saturday, housing workers did come and said, run the water for 3 hours, don't cut it off. And I did that. And they didn't come and do like a sample. They didn't do any of that.
That was when you saw somebody come up to you and give you any sort of guidance?
Yeah, and then when I went to the management office, nobody knows anything neither. And you have to realize this happened on Friday. So from Friday night to Saturday, Sunday, we are all going crazy. Who can we talk to? Then they said they gave up meetings. Nobody came and talked to us and give us a meeting. Nobody sat down with us and tell us what's gonna happen. We as tenants is finding out on our own. We trying to come together to figure this out because we don't know. And then it's sad because there's some tenants that didn't find out until 4 days later. So they still using the water. This was very unorganized. And it was disgusting. It was. It really was. And it still is because we're still unsure. We still don't trust it.
And you have every right to feel that way. So I just wanted to thank you for being here and ask, as someone who I would say you are, someone who truly cares about this community, who is an engaged person, who has a good relationship with your neighbors, I'm sorry that you had to go through this. So I just want to thank you for waiting this long and adding your voice to this experience. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And your kids, how did they get tested and what's the follow-up? And is anybody helping you with them?
Well, I got called yesterday, like I said. I found out a week later. They tested, we went September 7, and the test results came back yesterday that they tested positive. They do have arsenic, and we did a urine sample, so it did, but not the little one didn't come up. They just told me that it's not a high level of arsenic, so they're okay, but it is in their system.
And it wasn't there before because you've had
No.
with checkups over the years.
Yes, and my kids are very up to date.
Were you offered, have you heard a conversation, water filter, and did you ever receive an actual piece of information that talked about the implications of arsenic or health guidelines that could help you answer the questions of what we were looking at?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Laura Lugo. I am a resident at Reese Houses. I also sit on Community Board 3, having come from District 4 and sitting on the CEC up there through you, Gail Brewer. I wasn't going to speak, but as I was taking notes, I realized that I was making a list for my son's double-digits birthday party, and he crossed out every family member that works for housing that he does not want invited to his party, including his father, who has been a caretaker J for the past 21 years. We were at that 34 meeting on September 9th, and I had to leave because my son said that his family members are killing him. Unfortunately, one of the members spoke in the community and said that NYCHA is murderers. And I've had to put him back on the IEP so he can go back to counseling, so that way he understands that his papa does not want to kill him. His father works for the organization but does not want to kill him. I am a huge advocate speaking positively for housing because it's not always just housing. As residents, we are held accountable. I am that person that if there's a diaper out the window, I'm going to see where that diaper came from and I'm going to put it in front of your door because it's not the caretaker's job to clean that. But all I'm asking is because we no longer trust you is that that trust is built back again. And by doing that is by putting in simplified English, a language I had to learn when I came to this country, very simple, what is it that you're doing? In our lobbies, not in boring white paper, put it somewhere nice and huge and telling me what is it exactly that you're doing so that my son can enjoy his double-digits birthday that he's been looking forward to. You know, he's been looking forward to being 10, as he puts it, Mom, I've been here for 10 years, and now they're trying to take me out, and I'm like, no one is taking you out. We've had to, thankfully, you know, we have it's a beautiful community. I moved to Lower East Side for that reason, for the community, and thankfully others on Avenue A have taken us in because he will refuse to take a shower. And any parents who a pre-pubescent boy knows that they need to shower. So I'm just asking for full transparency, accountability, as someone who, and once again, I will tell you, you can see it on every YouTube video for Community Board, I speak for housing because it is in my family. I chose to live in housing because I do have a 16-year-old at NYU and tuition is expensive. So I'm asking you to please help me in living in this development with just talk to us. Don't wait for this. I didn't want to have to leave work early. My husband had to leave Smith Houses to run to go get my son. I am a cancer survivor. I don't want to be worried about what I'm putting into my body after I already just survived gastric cancer. It took a lot to get to here today. And I would just appreciate if more of you with the blue lanyards came to our community and spoke to us. And once again, in simple English, that's all that we want. We want accountability and transparency. And that's all that we're asking, the same way that you're asking for us to be decent residents. And I will fight for you for those decent residents as long as you're fighting on your behalf. Thank you.
We have questions. Go ahead.
I want to say happy birthday to him, and it breaks my heart, right, that he thinks that this is happening, that he is under attack, because he, like many other public housing young people, should feel loved and cared for in the bosom of public housing and the residents. So it truly breaks my heart and talks to the depth of the harm and pain that these situations continue to espouse. So as a city council member, that is deeply heartbreaking, and I'm so sorry that he has to feel like that for even 1 second of his superb 10-year life. But thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you for your service on the Community Board 3.
Yes, we'll now call Maria Forbes, Rosemary Vargas, Martha Lacano, and Maribel. Ms. Forbes?
Good afternoon, board. My name is Bridget Tuck. I live at Jacob Reese Houses. I have lived in public housing for 59 years, long-time residents there. I've had in the past many different issues with NYCHA, with fixing my apartment. Some of NYCHA's people who are here have seen it. It's very inhumane. They even said that I should not have been in the apartment because the ceiling has a hole in it, in the bathroom, and mold and asbestos on the floor in the kitchen, loose towels over and over. I have made complaints to many city officials and letters. Now with this water issue, I have an ostomy bag and a catheter, a suprapubic catheter. I have been in and out of the hospital, and I can prove it, for 3 months straight, every single day in the ER for bacteria. They don't know what's going on, but I did bring in the water, and they said the water's cloudy. Listen, you know you have been diagnosed with opportunist infections. I've been diagnosed with HIV over 40 years. I'm one of the long-time survivors, okay? And I also do advocacy in HIV and AIDS for Alliance and other organizations, gay men, health crisis, and different, just advocating for people. Now I have to advocate for myself with this water issue. Now, we in the past know about NYCHA's stuff, but I didn't appreciate the day that I found out about it was the next day, okay? I asked, now they had the Tenant Association along with a few NYCHA employees. NYCHA was not all out there, okay? They just had grounds people out there. And when I asked about, can I please have 2 cases of water, it was stated from various people from the tenant organization at Jacob Reese, not 2 cases, only 1 case. That was the day, the night before. I didn't know anything about the water. I found out about it in the morning when I went outside. So, as the tenant that I am, I went around and knocked on people's doors and spoke to them and let them know, listen, don't drink the water. Don't cook with it. Don't do anything with it. Don't fix your baby's bottles with it either, okay? Now, the questions that I have for everybody in here, because it seems to me that the board, NYCHA, other areas of government, you all failed all of us at Jacob Reese Houses, period. Okay? So, that's where I'm at with that. Then the next thing is, I've asked numerous times about the levels, the vendors, the measurements. How do you go about measuring? What do you do? I don't have my glasses on, but I just wrote these questions down. Okay. One of the questions, I have several questions. One of the questions, I'm trying to be cynical about this because I'm really pissed off.
Can you wrap up? That would be great, because we're out of
Okay,
time. Thank
one
you.
of the questions is, you, as the board, have already known that de Blasio in 2016 had sued Jacob Riis houses for similar areas with this water. Here we are back again with the same thing, okay? So, you guys are in fault, they are in fault, we're suffering, okay? Because now it's collateral damage, is what you all and NYCHA and everybody else is saying. What's done is done. You're saying, oh no, we use a cheaper vendor, we use a cheaper this, that, or the other to measure. We had problems before with these people, but now we're gonna change and get another vendor. No, the problem is, how are you doing the measurements? You're not going to us tenants to sit down with us. We only have had one meeting.
We know, and thank you.
And the other thing is, when you're looking at the measurements, how are you actually looking at what levels as far as what you're looking at, what it's supposed to be, and what inhumane is as far as with a baby, a senior, a person with a opportunist infections, illness, or whatever.
We need you to, because we have many more people who want to testify.
Anybody else here?
Yeah, they're on the Zoom. They're on
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Ms.
but-
Tuck, also,
I guess,
Ms.
okay.
Tuck, we'd love to talk to you and get the full scope. And also, we are committed to looking into see if we could get a hearing in the community. So my team will follow up with you. We'll make sure that we get your contact information.
Okay, and my other question is, and then I'm gonna go away, okay? How many samples were actually taken from those apartments? Because what I saw, I went downstairs and I told the guys, listen, come to my house. I live next to a water treatment plant and Con Edison. I think you guys need to come on this side first and then work your way back that way. So, were they just taking one bottle because it looked like it was a plastic container with one bottle that they let run for a little while and then they put the top on it and then that was it? They never came back for another sample. I've asked numerous times, when are you guys coming back? How can I get a sample kit so I can do it myself at home and send it off?
I appreciate it. Just we got people who are waiting. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I hope, this is taken care of because I'm not drinking the water and I'm not taking a bath in the water. I'm in my kitchen, okay? And $200 is a lot to somebody, but I have spent over $2,000 in water.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for testifying.
How am I going to get my money back along with the medication that I had to pay for? It wasn't under Medicaid and Medicare either.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. We will now return to Maria Forbes, if you're present on Zoom. In addition, we will hear from Elizabeth Reyes, Janae Spencer, Crystal Glover, and Joel Cooperman.
Time starts now.
Go ahead. Yep, thank you. Go ahead. The Sergeant Arms will get your copies. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair Alexa Aviles and the Committee on Public Housing. I'm Elizabeth Reyes, a Cecil Coburn Mark Fellow at We Act for Environmental Justice. In my role, I work around topics of toxic chemicals and lead. I'm also involved in our community organizing work and with our various working groups, including our Healthy Homes Working Group and our NYCHA Working Group. The NYCHA Working Group consists of members living in New York City Housing Authority developments to discuss and organize around the various environmental health hazards that currently exist in their homes and communities. So NYCHA faces a myriad of problems, most of which are tied to the fact that it has been chronically underfunded for years. As a result, the New Yorkers who rent apartments in NYCHA developments often have to endure environmental challenges such as mold, lead, and pests, along with other substandard services in terms of repairs and other basic issues. After keeping residents in the dark for 2 weeks about potentially high levels of arsenic in the drinking water at Jacob Reese houses in the East Village, New York City officials released an announcement last week that there was never any arsenic in Jacob Reese houses to begin with. In spite of this announcement, there is an enormous gap in the city's response to this potential water contamination event. Not a single individual was tested for arsenic exposure. This begs the question, why did city officials not begin testing residents immediately after initial water samples showed levels of arsenic? The city is responsible for individuals who may have been exposed to unsafe levels of arsenic because of negligent responses to this potential contamination. In addition to immediate testing for arsenic in the water, residents must also be tested to assess their potential exposure to arsenic. The window of opportunity for testing may have closed for the residents living in Jacob Reese houses. Still, these testing procedures must be implemented moving forward to safeguard the health of NYCHA residents. NYCHA should focus on strengthening infrastructure that prevents environmental hazards from occurring in the first place. Investments in more resilient infrastructure and procedures are vital to protecting people's health and well-being. There should be more emphasis on funding preventative actions and measures that protect the NYCHA community. Future responses to addressing and remediating environmental health hazards should be met with better planning and consideration. For example, the work order reform program in Queens and Staten Island shortens scheduling times and allows residents to address all of their infrastructure and maintenance complaints at the same time. This should be afforded to all residents of NYCHA. Thank you for this opportunity to testify, and We Act will be submitting a full written testimony as well.
Thank you, and say hello to Peggy for me, Shepherd. Crystal, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name's Crystal Glover, that's with a C. I am a financial secretary at Washington Houses as of January 1st, 2022. This particular channel, this government channel, city council channel, on Spectrum it's 74. I don't know what it is on Verizon, but I can guarantee you that if you can get 2 or 3 people from Jacob Reese houses that are watching that channel, you're lucky. And that's a lot of the problem. The tenants, I remember a tenant in my development, she says, "Oh, Crystal, I saw you on the city council channel." People don't even watch the channel. That's number one. Number two, I'm here today not to toot my horn, but I'm here in full solidarity with Jacob Reese houses, power to the people, since people brought race up and stuff, black power, okay? And what we're gonna have to do is, we have these council of presidents and district councils and tenant associations and all of these people, and they only meet with the presidents. And a lot of those presidents don't even meet with their tenants. So if there's any information that we should be getting, because everybody wants to partner with tenant association presidents. Everybody, I'm a former TA president for Washington Houses. And how we started having elections where, in my development, because I would go to meetings, and I requested in 2010, when was the last election we had? They says, "Oh, you're due elections." And that's what got the ball started. And incidentally, infill, once we had the elections and I was voted in 2011, infill came along with Bloomberg. And we got $4,000 of our TPA funds, which is Tenant Participation Activity Funds. $4,000 of that, we got a lawyer with the Urban Justice Center, and we were able to have the infill canceled at Washington Houses. That was under my watch. Now, what do I want to say? Any of you TA of NYCHA residents at Jacob Riis Houses, the Tenant Association is the conduit between management and tenant. Incidentally, at Washington Houses, we don't even have a manager, so no one's managing our development. We have construction work going on with our roofs. There's so much going on, and it's really not rocket science. TAs have a lot of power. And the tenants, if you're listening, whether it's at Jacob Riis, because these people here, this city council, they have to stay in their lane. Give me another 2 minutes.
Crystal, no, 'cause I
The
got
city
more-
council can only stay in their lane.
Crystal, I got people.
And what is their lane? To investigate city agencies.
Chris,
Are they, I'm gonna shut up, just give me 1
I
second.
got people on the.
Just give me a second.
1 second.
They're here to investigate city agencies. Are they investigating the agencies? We still have bags and bags of rats in front of our bags of garbage. There's still rat problems. The list goes on and on and on and on. Anyone who wants to contact me, my email address is walebutterfly@gmail.com. I was the president, and I'm telling you, I can help you as tenants. This is not rocket science. Folks are staying in their lane. What's his face not being here today is no accident. This has been going on since I've been in the project, since the 70s.
Crystal, thank you. I mean it. I want other persons.
This is nothing new.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay blessed, Gail, because you're a blessed woman. You've been around for 100 years, and you're going to outlive the majority of us. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Joel Cooperman, and I believe we're also joined by a Ramona Minor on Zoom. And if you would like to speak, you may do so after Mr. Cooperman.
Time starts now.
Just trying to unmute. You hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Joel, you're on. You got to get on. Joel?
Yes, do you hear me?
Joel? Yep. Joel?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, do you hear me?
Joel, you're on the video for the city council.
Yes, do you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Hello? I'm sorry, do you hear me?
We can hear you. Joel, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry for the noise. I'm on a train coming back from a trip. I just want to say that I've been around the block. I've worked cases 9/11. I've worked with the police, water lawyers. I've worked in the infill, Katrina. In many cases, I'm a counsel to the association and to Flint.
Joel, I'm sorry. Joel, this is Councilmember Alexa Vilas. We cannot hear you. I'm not sure what the problem is, but we would be happy also to receive your written testimony since we are having audio problems.
Could you pick up my phone? I'm on the phone.
We still can't hear you.
Ramona Minor. Ramona Minor, if you are planning to speak, you may do so now.
Hello? Good evening.
Time starts now.
Hello?
We can hear you. Time starts now. You can go ahead.
Yes. What is it more to say? We have the same old problem going on and on and on. Brown water. When we talk about the water, it gets cleaned for a couple of days. The roof's about to cave in. Riis, I was there. My heart goes out to them. I was there during the press conference. So what are we going to do about it? We just talking and talking. What are you going to do about it?
Ramona,
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I believe one more person. Go ahead.
Danette Chavez.
Time starts now.
Can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes,
can you
yes,
hear
we
me?
can.
Okay. I think it goes without saying that a terrible wrong has been committed. First, by the failure to notify timely the lab results which were released indicating high levels of arsenic, and the blunder which had been discovered when a retraction had been given. Regardless to the reasons, a failure occurred where tenants weren't properly notified what had been found. And to allege an abundance of caution was the basis or the reason behind the delay is a total contradiction of what it means to take caution. Because an abundance of caution would have compelled swift notification, not delays to seek further testing. It is this kind of judgment that is being made every day concerning the lives of tenants who are totally and utterly dependent upon NYCHA to do the right thing concerning them. So how many opportunities will be permitted before corrective action is taken? How many people will sit here and hear the history of NYCHA repeated over and over by its tenants who are continually at their mercy for the basics, such as heat and hot water? And when the very basic element is alleged to be poison, yet information is withheld for any reason, why should it be taken for granted that the intended demise of these tenants is what's being planned while promises are made to preserve and keep their housing? Because if water, a very basic element, which is everywhere, can be allowed to be consumed while Legionella exists, no retraction given on those test results, then they are perfectly capable of allowing something far more deadly. And the justification given by the mayor is that no positive test results in the last 12 months were given, without stating that you in fact tested in the last 12 months, yet ignoring the current tests which say positive because, quote, people can't catch Legionnaire's disease by drinking water. It's true, they can't. But the most common route for transmission is by inhalation of aerosolized air. You can catch it in the air. It is breathed into the lungs through vents when bacteria is aerosolized. The lack of information that is factual on these positive test results for Legionella is either deception on the part of the mayor or ignorance regarding scientific data being reported. I'd like to think the mayor, who shows up to drink the water, would also drink from the cup of his own misinformation, because if the science hasn't informed him, maybe a personal experience will. To see NYCHA once again void its obligations to its tenants while the mayor pleads ignorance yet swift action once notified, and have the federal monitor demand all communications and data as if poised to spank them and bring them into compliance, while they allow these developments to deteriorate all around us, is a hocus-pocus show.
Thank you. If you could wrap up.
Tenants are made to believe protection exists where none in fact is.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if you can wrap your head around what this means as a tenant living in NYCHA, but try arsenic in the water, no retraction statement given until inquired concerning those results by independent media.
Thank you very much.
It wasn't until then that the tenants were notified.
All right, we have
So
to
what is
wrap
the
up.
message?
Thank
I'm
you.
done. But I want to say, what is the message to NYCHA tenants? If not, sit and die.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, that concludes our public testimony. First, I'd like to thank our public housing residents, and in particular, TA President Ms. Daphne Williams, and all that they have endured over the decades. What you've heard from residents is compounding impacts of the harms they've endured from decades of disinvestment and mismanagement. They brought this issue to life with their personal experiences, and they should never have had to go through this in the first place. Thank you to Chair Brewer, Councilmember Rivera, and all of our colleagues who have been present and advocating for their constituents. I also want to thank the representatives here today from NYCHA, DEP, DOHMH, and DOI, who were present to answer questions, and thank you to NYCHA, who stayed throughout the duration of this hearing to hear public testimony.
I want to also thank everyone for joining us. I thank the residents, NYCHA for remaining, as well as the other agencies, the amazing council members Aviles and Rivera, but also please protocols, please communication, please transparency. It would be amazing if from now on every single one of those three, no matter which development we're working with, it's a new day. So thank you very much.
Yes, and I'd just like to say, it is not lost on me that the failures of our agencies have had real impacts on our families who live in public housing. While this hearing may not repair the full and immediate harm created by the situation or the agony of many of the harms perpetuated throughout the years, my hope is that we are moving in the right direction to acknowledge and repair the harm. Among the solutions and policy and process changes that NYCHA committed to today, it is important to get on record that NYCHA should also be providing water filters for residents, medical on-site testing for residents, obviously compensation with no strings attached, mental health supports. You have heard the anxiety, the stress, and the constant questioning. This comes at a real impact for our residents. And accessible, readable information. Big fonts, easy language. Thank you so much to everyone for your work today. We must do better by our residents. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thanks.